There is so much information for youth. Youth must know about economy. Youth must know about politics, because especially in India, where we are a democratic country, after 18, youth can cast a vote also. So they need to understand all those aspects also, in addition to the spirituality, in addition to the ethics, so that they make the right choices. Because ultimately, the person you choose as a leader of the nation, no matter how many policy recommendations you come up with, if the leader is not able to put them into place, all of our recommendations go into a waste. So I think youth must come forward and make sure that they have a very informed say when it comes to whether elections or choosing the right leader. And what would create a balanced society, as Amma says, when we consider both man and woman like two wings of a bird. Not that women are more superior to men or men are more superior to women. It's also not about taking a revenge or trying to put the other gender down. I think that balance needs to be maintained. And this is a beautiful metaphor which Amma gives, that man and woman are like two wings of a bird. If one wing is not working, the bird is not going to fly. So we as the society need to ensure that we are going hand in hand. And as far as youth are concerned, there are too many distractions nowadays. You are into edutainment, you know better than me. So I think one very important thing for our youth is we must, no matter where you are in the world, we must teach them meditation. As Amma says, education for living, your universities, your schools will tell you, but education for life is what is missing. And that education for life, one of the main component of that education for life is meditation. We need to shape them while they are young. And these seeds of hope are very, very important to be sown early enough in the life. We did integrated holistic health campaigns. You won't believe, like other Ayodhyans also said, we had thousands of these youth who participated in that 999 challenge. We had gender equality campaigns, again, thousands and lakhs all over India, all over the world. We had a campaign called 1 million lights, and we achieved it. You should see on our website how inspiring it was, because 70% of our people who nominated were youth. Sustainable and resilient communities. We did global seed ball campaign, 1 million seed balls. Again, 70% of the people who participated were youth. Technology, security, and transparency. We are teaching how to be safe online all across the schools of India, all across the states, And again, youth are the target there. Youth are our primary motivators. And also the youth parliaments which we conducted. There were so many youth from all across the world. So I think as a mentor, we need very, very good mentors to shape these youth. It is our duty to also produce good mentors. See, all of the youth people were here saying that they were inspired by Amma. Why? Because Amma is such a beautiful mentor. Amma is such a great mentor. She is walking the talk. And whether we know or whether we agree or not, we are also somebody's role model. And we must make sure that we try to be a good mentor to everybody. And as Amma says, leader is someone who has to be open to all. One size fits all approach does not work. We have to go down to the level of every single person. Amma says leader is not someone who commands. It is someone who is ready to serve and be the servant. And that is what Amma is showing through her life. And that is why she is such a great leader. I told you the other day also, starting from the vice chancellor to the peon of the organization, anybody and everybody can approach her. And that is how she creates compassionate leaders. So I think I will conclude my remarks by just saying that I think as mentors, we need to teach the joy of selfless service to the youth. And these Ayodhyans whom you are seeing today here on the panel, I think they are wonderful people because they go out of their way to do the selfless service. Really, my heart goes out for them. They have to balance their work life, they have to balance their student life, and so many other things. But they take out time and voluntarily, selflessly are there to serve the society. And I'm so happy that you have provided them this platform to voice their opinions, and I hope this partnership goes a long way. Thank you once again, Shanali. Thank you once again, Ashley. and love to all my Ayodhyans.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mokshamrita ji. I think you did a beautiful remarks to conclude our conversation. You said everything I was thinking. So thank you so much for all the Ayuthians who are here. You are all so brilliant, and I know you're all going to be working together soon and really take this forward. So thank you. We are honored that we got to have your voice be a part of what we are doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And let's stay connected, please. You're all wonderful people.
Ayud is an international youth movement dedicated to empower young people to become compassionate leaders.
1, 2, 3,
Ayud inspires youth to become active citizens with a sense of tolerance, solidarity, and global responsibility. Ayud is the youth wing of Embracing the World, a global network of humanitarian organizations. It was founded by Mata Amartananda Mayi, also known as Amma, a world-renowned humanitarian and spiritual leader from India. Our projects help today's youth to express their full potential, gain self-confidence, and develop their own creativity. Peace starts from within and spreads through our thoughts, words, and deeds. Volunteering in social outreach projects and using our skills for the benefit of society.
I was so surprised to see how much they enjoyed it, and also very surprised to see how much I enjoyed it myself.
Protection of the environment through our initiatives, inspiring the next generation to live in a sustainable way. Facilitation of intercultural exchange amongst youth from across the world, building bridges between youth from different cultures, religions, and social backgrounds. We are a new generation of compassionate, responsible leaders.
It's an honor to introduce Meg Jones, a distinguished figure in the realm of international diplomacy and gender equality. Meg's extensive experience and unwavering commitment to advancing the rights and empowerment of women have left an indelible mark on the global stage. Currently serving as the International Coordinator for the Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Working Group of the G20 Engagement Group C20, Civil Society 20, Meg Jones plays a pivotal role in shaping policies and initiatives that promote gender equality on a global scale. Her work is particularly significant under the Indian presidency of the G20 in 2023. Meg's journey in advocating for gender equality has taken her across the world, spanning 78 countries, and her contributions have been recognized with numerous international awards. Notably, she was honored as Women of the Year by the Organization of Women in International Trade, a testament to her dedication and impact. With a background that includes roles at the UN, the International Trade Center, and the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Meg Jones possesses a wealth of knowledge and experience that informs her in empowering women and promoting gender equality. Today, Meg will explain what is C20 and Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Working Group. Meg, welcome to the Power of Women Digital Conference. It's such an honor to have you with us.
Ashley, thank you so much. I'm delighted and honored to be here with you today. Thank you.
So look, actually, what I'd like to do at the outset is recognise the very good work of Power Women Digital, because this is exactly what we need at this time. At this time in India, who holds the presidency this year for the G20, we have the heads of states of 19 countries, plus the European Union, meeting in India. So it's fantastic that your organisation has put this series together, because this is exactly what we need to be, that translator between what's taking place in the dialogues with the heads of state and what it is that civil society needs to grab hold of and run with going forward to keep our governments accountable. I mean, the C20, as you know, is civil society 20. We are one of the 11 engagement groups of the G20, which was set up to actually interact and advise those governments through a process on what the pressing issues of the day actually are. It's a big, heavy lifting task, and each government that takes it on each year needs to nominate a strong chair to bring civil society together. And we certainly have that. Prime Minister Modi, in his infinite wisdom, did actually appoint Sri. And I'm going to get her name beautifully correct because it's a little bit complex for those of us from overseas, but it's certainly worth looking up the extreme words of wisdom of our leader here, Sri Mata Amritananda Mayi Devi, otherwise known as Amma, who is the chair of the C20. Before I go into exactly what the C20 is there, Ashley, I wanted to take a step back and look at the G20 with those 11 countries, with those 19 countries plus the European Union. And let's have a look at why that's so important that civil society has a direct line of dialogue with the G20. And that's because of this reason. The G20 members represent 80% of global GDP, over 75% of global trade, and about 2/3 of the world's population. So it's got a significant power. And one of the advantages of the C20 countries, the G20 countries coming together, is that they can learn from each other in difficult times. In fact, that was why the G20 was established. Roots in the financial crisis, has worked its way through also in dealing with navigating the more recent COVID pandemic as well. So what the governments can learn from each other is best practices, which can be learned and reapplied in different countries. Now, the thing about government policy is that it does, of course, impact civil society, impacts individuals. And we as a voice, we need to have a voice to get through up to our leaders at the domestic level and then more broadly across this group. And that's actually what the C20 is. Now, in the context of the C20, under India's presidency, we have an unprecedented number of working groups underneath the focus of the work in the C20. And this is important. And I think the government of India, and in particular, Amma, this represents her understanding of not only the political issues of the day, but the social and environmental issues of the day as well. The mantra is one family, one future, one earth. So we've really captured that in the different engagement groups that we're looking at under the C20. So what I'd like us to do here, Ashley, if you wouldn't mind, is to put a little video together. We've put a little video together here to actually explain what the C20 is. And there's some key highlights in that in terms of the number, the breadth of the engagement we had this year, and also what the areas of the key policy recommendations.
Within Civil 20, the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Working Group, formerly known as Gender Equality and Disability, is committed to holistically examining and addressing the multifaceted dimensions of inequalities and disadvantages experienced by people of all genders. We reflect the global commitment to ensure gender equality and recognize that this is a cross-cutting issue that affects all aspects of sustainable development. Under the guidance of the Honorable Chair of Civil 20, India 2023, Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, Amma, the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Working Group aims to reinforce an approach to equality and development through an understanding that mutual respect and compassion, regardless of gender, should be at the core of global governance for societies and the planet to flourish sustainably. Through this lens, the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Working Group's focus has been centered on 6 interconnected sub-themes that approach gender equality from the perspectives of economic empowerment and sustainable livelihoods, physical and mental health, education and skill development, safety and security, environment and disasters, social cultural implications, including engaging and creating awareness in men and boys. After months of consultations with thousands of CSOs worldwide, our working group successfully held an international summit on April 22 to 23, 2023, where CSOs and senior experts from around the world came together to deliberate on the proposed policy recommendations, condensed them into a short list of the most critical policies, and then democratically selected the top recommendations to be submitted to the G20. Key recommendations and udaharans were announced. Among the most exciting achievements was the establishment of a separate working group focusing specifically and exclusively on disability, while our working group's identity shifted to gender equality and women's empowerment. The resultant policy pack on the theme of gender equality and women's empowerment captures the outcomes of this summit and reflects the most urgent and critical policies for the G20 leadership to consider.
So there you have it, actually. This is the C20. I think the highlights have captured very well there in that video. And I'd like to point out at this juncture to all of those who are watching that video, the policy pack and communique from the C20 and the report of the W20 of the our C20 Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment group are all on the website. If you Google C20 Gender Equality Women's Empowerment, you'll be able to access all of those resources just there. And I would encourage those listening to do so because there, of course, you can find the policy recommendations. Now, what does that mean in the broader context? We are, of course, hoping that the G20 leaders who are meeting in India this week take note of those recommendations and do make commitments in that area. What it means is that the G20 leaders, when they make commitments in that area, there is a reporting process back as to achievements, implementation done on those particular commitments. And it enables us at civil society to advocate at our level to local, state, federal/regional governments on those topics as well. So if I were to pick out one or two areas that we've made recommendations in. We've made both what they call cross-cutting recommendations and specific thematic recommendations. Some of our cross-cutting areas include, for example, policy recommendation for the collection of sex disaggregated data, and then also looking at monitoring evaluation in policy development for greater transparency and accuracy in reporting as well, and of course for accountability. Now, Also in that zone, we've called for the allocation of sufficient human and financial resources for gender equality policies and programs to be established, and prioritising the safety and security of girls and women in all aspects of life. Now, if I were to give you an example why that's important and how this actually works, for all of you watching this particular webinar, you will be a taxpayer in your country. And so what our policy recommendations aim to provide is some guidance to government on how taxpayers' money can be effectively spent on areas of importance that have been indicated through this participatory process to identify these policy recommendations in the context of the G20. So what that means, for example, if we're talking about the translation of taxpayers' money into spending, any spending in the government context is done through policy. You've got a policy, for example, to build a new hospital, build roads, so on and so forth, allocate monies in that area. Now, you can look at this in terms of two ways. When we're collecting sex disaggregated data, we can look at this from an engagement process and an impact process. So if we're looking at this from an engagement process, we could be looking for data on, for example, the number of women-owned companies that are participating in the government procurement process. If we stick to the hospitals analogy, for example, that could be the number of companies that are owned, operated and controlled by women who are selling, for example, bed sheets or uniforms or food services into that space. And then conversely, on the impact side, we could be looking at the number of women and men who are actually receiving hospital treatment, to look at the statistics there to see whether or not women are able to access health services in, of course, urban and remote settings. So the setting up a policy for success in the context of gender equality and women's empowerment, it does mean that we need to have sex disaggregated data, look at the engagement and impact on both men and women, boys and girls, and other genders, to see how that policy is actually working out. In order to achieve that, there needs to be the allocation of adequate human and financial resources to actually set up a policy for success. And to ensure the baselines are there. If we go back to that analogy about sourcing goods and services from companies owned by women, you'd need to establish at first what percentage of government procurement is currently being spent on sourcing goods and services from companies owned by women. My experience is that if you go to either the public or private sector, no matter the size of the company, it's usually less than 1% of spend it goes to companies owned by women. So on that baseline, there can certainly be a commitment to improve, and where the commitment needs to be made, there needs to be an actual policy adopted by the government or the company as well. Just in the context of India, and once again, to the utility of the G20 process, the government of India did actually adopt a what's called a preferential procurement policy to source goods and services from companies owned by women. There's a 3% target there. And in an iterative process, policy is always a process of learning. Once you get your accountability in there, you see there are gaps. What can you do to fill them? The government of India also set up a gender e-market portal as a place where women-owned companies could actually make themselves known to governments and therefore increase their visibility in that particular process. So you can see government policy needs to be informed by civil society. Civil society was, is, and will always be, if you like, a strong supporter and watchdog for government on policy. So it's an iterative process. A policy is adopted. There needs to be the sexually segregated collection of data there, the monitoring, the evaluation of those policies, so that we can make sure that they are effective on the ground. And if they're not, why not? And again, go through that policy of that process of public consultation for improvement. So what you see in the G20 context has been, for each of those countries and civil societies that are participating, bring the knowledge and wealth from their particular engagement processes with government to this consultative level. We learn from each other, we make the policy recommendations, we help each other bring those to the attention of our governments and look to see that they're implemented across. And then between the different presidencies of the G20. It was Indonesia last year, it's India this year, it'll be Brazil next year. There's a troika which bring those three experiences together, representatives of those three governments, to ensure that there's a handover process between and that there's some continuity in recognition and understanding of the policy recommendations which have been made and those which are being implemented.
Meg, thank you so much for informing us on the significance of what it is for us, for the general public, to be aware of these policy recommendations and how it impacts all of us at a global scale. Thank you so much for explaining the significance of C20 in general and the Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Working Group. As for everybody hearing, as Meg explained, the essence of C20 and the vital work of the Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Working Group. Hopefully everybody feels empowered with the knowledge and inspired. Meg, we thank you so much for gracing us today at the Power of Women Digital Conference with your insights and expertise. I do believe that your presence here has illuminated the path forward for not just myself and women worldwide, but just the global community in general, and how we can have a brighter and more inclusive future for all. So it was a pleasure and honor to have you with us.
You're very welcome, Ashley. Last shout out to everyone. Get involved. Go to that website, have a look, find your favourite policy recommendation, because then it's not just your policy recommendation. This consultation took place with 74 nationalities, thousands of people. So you can actually say, this is important not only to me and my organisation, my society, but it's been recognised as having critical importance in the context of the G20. It's a powerful tool for advocacy, Ashley. Go for it, women. Go for it, guys. Let's hit it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Meg.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dr. Bhavani, Dr. Krishnashree, Dr. Priya, and Dr. Prema, thank you so much for being here today at the Power of Women Digital Conference. And as a part of the C20 leadership, we're very excited to speak to you and really learn about all the incredible work you have been doing for the past year through C20, which is Civil 20 for G20. Please, I'll start with Dr. Bhavani. Please, can you tell us a little bit about your role in G20?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here on this panel. My role at C20 was primarily a little bit on the back end of the overall C20, so I was assisting the C20 chair. But at the same time, I was also the working group lead on gender equality and women's empowerment. This was my primary role in C20.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Prema, can you just give us a little bit about what your role is and what your working group is about?
My role was primarily on the education and digital transformation working group, coordinating that effort.
Amazing. And Dr. Priya, welcome. And can you share a little bit about your working group?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I was one of the leads for the C20 working group on integrated holistic health, mind, body, and environment. So public health and also traditional forms of medicines. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. And Dr. Krishna Shri, can you share a little bit about your working group?
Hello, good morning. Basically, I worked on the vertical related to technology, security, and transparency, and was part of the team that really coordinated both international and the national effort towards bringing together civil societies that work around this space.
Thank you so much. You know, I wanted to have this conversation with you on behalf of everyone, all of civil society, and especially for the younger generation. This year, C20, I got to know about C20 this year because of Power of Women and G20, because of the presidency was held by India. Before that, it was very much something that was way out of our reach, something the governments were working with at the highest level. So I would love to understand. I have a few questions because this year it was very, very different, very interesting, because the chair of C20 2023 for G20 was a humanitarian and a spiritual leader, Ammaji, from India. So this is very different, I feel like, from the previous years when they started in 2013, C20 when it was established. So if all of you can tell us what do you think this role of C20 is, and how Ammaji, being the chair of C20 for G20, really shaped that role moving forward for the rest of the world? I think any of you can go ahead. I don't know if Dr. Bhavani, Dr. Priya, Dr. Krishna Shri, please.
Yeah, I can go first, I think. I think Amma's universal vision of compassion that she practices in upholding and perceiving everyone and everything equally as a manifestation of the divine was a great example of how inclusivity and care can be transformative. I think Amma was also very keen on having a wide representation from grassroots organizations. So for the vertical that I was representing, just quoting Amma, she says that technology is very important and it has increased conveniences and made life comfortable. But at the same time, the abuse of technology has also increased, and so has its dangers. So that is why extensive research on the negative impact of any new invention or discovery is essential, because it is deployed to the population at large. So the new should never be allowed to trample on the old. That's saying it is better to prevent than cure. So new discoveries can also mean unique new hazards. So before such discoveries become a permanent headache to society, we need to find solutions to their potential negative repercussions and threats that could manifest. So she had actually guided this vertical in a three-pronged approach, you could say. One is to reach out to many diverse communities, countries, people to understand how technology has affected them and hear their voices. Second would be to deliberate with experts and multiple stakeholders. And third would be to really articulate policies based on these and also look at initiatives that can be put in place with achieving these policies. So we had evolved close to 21 policy recommendations and gotten involvements of 122 countries in this process.
That's incredible. And I think what you just said is so important, because of the digital space is why we are able to have this conversation and have this collaboration with C20 to really reach out to civil society. And Dr. Priya, we were just talking a little bit earlier with what Dr. Krishna Shri said and what the impact Ammaji has brought into C20. I think it's important for all of us to understand what C20 is, because I think a lot of us don't even realize we are all a part of this. And because it's with G20, we feel it's very much exclusive to a certain group of people, a certain group of organizations. But that was really dismantled with India's presidency and Amma being the chair. We are all able to be a part of the conversation. So if you can really explain to our audience what is C20 and how you all came to be a part of it.
I think I'm going to be honest. You had already said that you hadn't really heard of C20 before India's presidency, and I think I can share that sentiment with you. I mean, apart from just learning something in our textbooks about the Great Nations 20, no idea what about it, what countries are there, zero idea. And I think that once Amma was given the chair and we were, honored to have the responsibility of coordinating some of these working groups, we started that journey to understand what C20 or Civil Society 20 actually meant. And I think traditionally it is a gathering or a getting together of civil society organizations that work internationally, multinationally, and it's a very intensive discussion on policy building. And though it's, I'm sure, done incredible service, it's been a lot of meetings and discussions at a very high level. And I think one of the very interesting and honestly very heartwarming aspects of Civil Society 20 India was kind of broadening that concept of what civil society actually meant, because in its broadest sense, you are civil society, I am civil society. Any single individual who is trying to serve anyone around them, they also fall into that category of civil society. For example, during the COVID pandemic, there was this story that was going around of a poor woman in Tamil Nadu, South India. She was so poor, she didn't even have money to pay for her own slippers, but she was so inspired by seeing the suffering around her. She was so pushed to do something that she decided, I'm going to make sure that I give breakfast for at least 2 people. That's all I can afford now. And gradually, she kind of grew her small kitchen to provide for the people who became unemployed due to the COVID pandemic. So she's also a civil society organization, although she may not be registered in some kind of a national database. So when Amma received the chair, she had given all of us very clear guidance as to when you are talking to people to really understand what problems are in society, be it technology, be it diversity, inclusivity, health, technology, environment. Find out what the real problems are. This year we represent the Global South. It's Indonesia, India, and Brazil. These were the 3 countries that were coordinating it. It's called the Troika. And representing the Global South altogether gave us a unique opportunity to really reach people that may never have had an opportunity to come out and speak. And it gave, I believe, a very unique flavor, a compassion-driven, very practical direction to the policy recommendations that came out. And honestly, as in any high-level meeting, they may be taken at a governmental level. They may not be taken at a governmental level. But I think that in the bigger sense, it doesn't actually matter, because just coming together, sharing of minds, and creating that impetus for us to have more concrete, clear steps of how I can approach or how I can address the biggest issues that the people feel. I think that's what C20 did this year, and I hope that we can take that forward. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I think it's very special because we didn't really have that before that. And I think Amma's compassion, especially being spiritually grounded. And as you're one of the coordinators of the health, holistic health, I think that's a part of well-being. Spiritual well-being is a part of that. And her bringing that is something not spoken enough. And I think that's very special. And I'm going to get to Dr. Bhavani because that's gender equality and women's empowerment. But I want to actually talk to Dr. Prema next about education, going from Dr. Priya, because how can we actually bring the component of education into really allowing people to know this, and what you have been doing in terms of really bringing that component? Because I think civil society really integrated a lot of people, civil society, you and I, like people just who are on this planet living life that's being affected and impacted by everything that's going on. How do you think your working group played a role in terms of really bringing people together to create policies, definitely?
Our C20 chair actually provided the vision for the C20 Education and Digital Transformation Working Group. And because Amma has founded the global network of charitable institutes, has so many volunteers globally, founded both academic institutions and also the civil society. The government has also many times requested Amma for help in outreach activities. And so the foundation for education was already there, established by Amma as a role model for us. And the culture of compassion is what Amma also brought as a vision. And it was always from the start, the idea was that the C20, all the working groups, we would not just be building policy, but definitely would be action oriented. And because of Amma's vision, we could also channel the efforts from the start on what was useful globally and within India. And so as part of engagement, we had over 16,000 participants from 104 countries. More than 5,000 were international. It also included a lot of outreach activities within villages, and we had a lot of youth participations also. It was a combination, I would say, of education for life. That is something that is propagated by Amma. And when we talk about education, every single working group that you see here did the awareness and education in their own areas to the community. So I would say education was definitely not limited to this working group, but for health, or if you go for cybersecurity awareness, or if you go for gender equality, that component of awareness, which is part of education for life, was done by all the working groups. And it was done with not only students and academic institutes, but a lot of youth across India and globally.
That's incredible. And that's something I'm going to get to towards the end. That's education is a part of it. Health in every area is a part of it. Technology connects all of us. And Dr. Bhavani, I'm coming to you next. Gender equality and women's empowerment. I think Amma holding the position of the chair for civil society is it speaks a lot, because she's bringing that female perspective and female leadership. When you talk about compassion, these are some of the qualities we don't really see in today's leadership, because it's more masculine leadership, but we need that feminine leadership to really bring the heart out of it, to really understand and connect with people. And when we talk about gender equality and women's empowerment, and that's what we are. Power of Women is also, that's where we're working, we're collaborating with your working group. It's more than just women. I mean, Amma is so inclusive of everyone as the chair. And that's what we are about too. I mean, we are so inspired by her way of doing work. It's inclusive of that. Women don't leave anybody behind as mothers. I mean, Amma literally means mother. So can you please share a little bit of your insight on this working group?
I think you've pretty much stolen the words from my mouth, Shanali. It's exactly what you're saying. I mean, when you talk about Amma, it's not about gender as a binary. It transcends gender. And when you start with compassion and end with compassion, you are all inclusive. It's just exactly the same things that you were saying, Dr. Krishan was saying, Dr. Priya was saying, Dr. Prema was saying. You can just boil that entire thing down to this compassion-based approach. And whether it's gender, whether it's any kind of inequality, any kind of diversity, any kind of inclusion, And like you said, motherhood doesn't exclude anyone. It talks about all of us moving together equally. So in that sense, you take the gender conversation beyond gender, even, but it impacts gender in a very large way, because we do have women who's half, and it's one of the largest diverse groups that there is. But like you said, I mean, I don't have to just repeat everything, but exactly, I think we all understand it and we see it. That this is what has been so different, dramatically different about the C20 leadership in India this year. That's been the second thing that I would say is, again, compassion is actually not just an attitude, it's an action word. Compassion has to have action built into it, which is why, again, Amma's insistence that we don't keep this to meetings, we don't keep this to talking, but we make sure that it translates actually into action. How in action? Everybody is on the table. Like you said, it was not some kind of a G20 exclusive club. G20 in itself is exclusive. We made sure that C20 was not exclusive in any which way. So everybody across the table was invited. Everybody was sent letters to anybody who wanted to participate, could be a part of it. So it was not just the few really super large international NGOs that were holding the conversations, but it was people who have never even heard of G20 that were actually becoming a part of the conversation. So that kind of inclusivity, acting on things, whether it's in terms of education or in terms of physical activity. So the amount of outreach that was done, it's also the tagline is "You are the light," means you are the change, you embody that change. So you had to make sure that this was an action-based thing. It is not a talking-based set of events. And so the amount of outreach we have, I think we're close to, from the numbers that we have collected, which is only the ones that we managed to keep track of, we've hit at least 4 million people in direct impact. So I'm not even talking about the indirect impact of just combined of all the working groups, not just the 4 that are represented over here. But also what in terms of action is learning from action. So we were very exclusive in the sense that we made sure that we brought lessons from the grassroots level. Why is policy failing? What is it that we really need to make policy work? We have beautiful policies in India. Why isn't our country perfect and idealistic? Because the policies fail when they come to implementation. Where are the gaps? Why is action actually not happening? So bring those lessons, put it back into policy so that we can make actual policy effective. These are all things that made the C20 so different. The other thing that Dr. Prema said is that we had so much conversation amongst ourselves. And we realized everything is cross-cutting. Gender is a part of every conversation. It's a part of health. It's a part of technology. It's a part of education. Education is a part of every conversation. So there is a huge system that we're talking. So we really have to approach this in a systems perspective. Again, that's a very feminine approach. You don't silo down. You kind of take the conversation together. And these are, I think, that were the most beautiful, really enriching parts of the entire C20 conversation. And like Amma says, it starts and ends in compassion. Anything short of that, you fail in the real objectives that any working group wants to meet. None of the SDGs would really happen if you didn't have compassion. It's like the missing SDG.
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, I took the words out of your mouth. I think some of the things you said is what I was thinking in my head. So that was very amazing, Dr. Bhavani. I think what you said, I want to go back to compassion and the leadership of Amma that she brought. I mean, again, to reiterate, I feel like I'm a part of the younger generation that's really looking, hey, what can we do? How can we be a part of taking action? Because it feels so unapproachable because it's very exclusive for the most part, but now it's more like, I mean, we can't keep it exclusive. It's impacting the climate crisis, is impacting every single one of us. Gender, technology is connecting every single one of us. We are in so many different places from in this world, like North America, Asia. We're all joining from different places, and education is the underlying component of it all. And Amma itself, she brings that inclusivity, because I met her once, maybe 10 years ago in Los Angeles. And, she's known as Hugging Amma because she really hugs you. When she sees you, she hugs you. And that's what she's known. And I met her for the first time in LA. And I was like, wow, that
that in itself is compassion and love. That's a feminine quality. Although feminine is not exclusive for women, because feminine, we all have masculine and feminine tendencies. That's something I know India really embraces, even with the way Hinduism is. Not to make it religious, but it's more like you see that in the gods of Hinduism, how both are embraced. And that's where my next question goes to, because taking action. So to take action, we need to know what the policies are. And I think, Dr. Priya, you said it, the fact that all of you came together, and I think all of you said this, was in itself a change, because us coming together in collaboration, not leaving anybody behind, that inclusivity, because all these groups tend to work in silos, but y'all really just brought it together and let's have high-level conversations because they all impact each other. So what are the policy recommendations? Whether they're going to affect or not, they still came out because you all came together. And what are some of these policy recommendations each of these groups can share with us? And then we'll go into the real action. How can we implement it? If it makes sense in our region, how can we implement? So one of you, please start. Maybe Dr. Bhavani, you can go first with some of the policy recommendations that were implemented, or rather is submitted.
Sure. I'd like to categorize that into two kinds of policy recommendations. So one is the kind of policy recommendations that make policy work. So even to have policy working, you need to have certain things in place. And so those were the cross-cutting policy recommendations, things that many groups had identified was critical. It's not really specific to either gender equality or education or cross-cutting policies. A very typical example of a cross-cutting policy is the need for data, good data, disaggregated data, especially in terms of gender. We don't have good disaggregated data. So this impacts policies in health, policies in education, policies in technology. We know about gender biases in artificial intelligence. So everywhere this recommendation comes up that you need to have good data. So we had cross-cutting data that was specific to policies, but we also had very specific working group related policies. So in terms of women's economic empowerment, women's health, everything has an aspect that ties into another working group because it is a system. But there were very specific recommendations in terms of gender and very specific recommendations in terms of cross-cutting. I think I'll keep it general over here because I'm sure the specifics will come from the other working groups, if that's okay. I can come back to it later on, the specifics of gender equality.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Bhavani, for sharing that. I see, we all said this, there's a connection here. Gender equality and women's empowerment is amplifying the voices, so that's broadening the narrative. And then that's a part of education because you have to educate each other. And then we have technology that really allows you to collect data, also disseminate information much faster than ever before. Just like we are talking here, we are using technology. And Dr. Priya, which your working group is holistic health, which impacts all areas of well-being, us being connected and coming. So Dr. Prema, if you can talk about a little bit about education and what kind of policies we are discussing here, the recommendations.
So yes, the education group recommended an integrated approach that promotes holistic education, which is grounded in life skills and global citizenship. Sorry, I just lost my power, but I'm on a UPS. Okay. I'll repeat it. The Education Working Group recommended an integrated approach that promotes holistic education, which combines both education for life skills and global citizenship. Now, global citizenship education was emphasized in the C20 2021 policy from Italy, But in the Indian policy, we propose taking this to the next level called Education for Life. And that basically has two goals. One is to build compassionate youth who serve society, and also building resilience in the mind of the youth so that they can face difficulties easily, and overcome them. And this could be through practices such as meditation or better understanding of how to deal with them. And then it extends this holistic paradigm to persons with disabilities. So especially children, early identification, swift intervention, and also sensitizing the entire community because there's a lot of stigma involved. And finally, we advocate for digital accessibility, inclusive financing models to support skill development, capacity building. Education in emergencies was something we found later because it didn't happen that much in India. But what we found from our international audience is that the average time that a refugee spends in a camp is 17 years. And so this became a big theme. Recommendations included comprehensive training, localized emergency curriculum, continuous development for teachers and community to be able to manage during emergencies. And then our last sub-theme was digital transformation and accessibility. So here we looked at human-centered design, bridging the digital divide. We launched multiple projects from digital transformation that were offered to society in education, integrative health. But the most satisfying one was something we did for outside India. And this was called Amrita Kutumbakam. It connects CSOs and NGOs with the refugee camps that they offer, that they serve. And it's being implemented in different countries such as Uganda, Tanzania, Greece, South Sudan. And it expands the options of displaced people and refugees and the NGOs and CSOs that want to help them. They know where the refugees are, what they need within the camp, and the refugees know where to find the services from the CSOs. And this is actually now available in almost 50 countries, and we have a lot of volunteers who have taken this up.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to get back to what you shared as well. And going back to technology, one of the problems, I have been having conversations with, people who I am talking to, my age group, stuck in between millennials and Gen Z. One of the things that's problematic we see is there's not enough discussion. So what you are sharing is just that data, that knowledge. When you have an open conversation, you can actually find out about what everybody's going through, what's happening in the world, instead of working in silos. And with technology being now the centerpiece of really connecting the entire world together, being able to really come from Uganda to, being able to connect 50 countries and their refugee camps. That's a big number. We were not able to do that maybe 2-3 decades ago. And Dr. Krishna Shri, if you can really talk about a couple of things, policy recommendations, and how technology is playing such a crucial role that can bridge the gap of so many things that's going on in the world to bring solutions with everything you're doing, really. Because another breakdown is dissemination of information, because not a lot of people have access to the information y'all are speaking, y'all are presenting the policy recommendations. So how, if you can share about how that relates to with the policy recommendations you have been working, and how we can be connected and disseminate information as well at the same time.
Right. So thank you, Shonali. So just, continuing on the thread that my other colleagues have mentioned, I think the way we looked at technology and technology policy recommendations were using two specific directions. One is, like you mentioned, how much enhancement technology has made in empowering people. So that's a very, very important aspect of technology. But the second is also the fact that we cannot deny is that technology has also made us increasingly vulnerable. And how do we really prevent that? So these two were, you could say, the foundation for all of our policy recommendations. So definitely the accessibility, the availability that, like Dr. Prema mentioned, are extremely important to be able to get everybody on board, to be able to use the potential of technology. And it has changed all of our lives. Today, we cannot even think of living without using technology for sure. However, there's a significant number of us in the world that do not actually have any of this access. And so education actually plays an important role. And the way we looked at it is we looked at two cross-cutting recommendations. One was education on emerging technologies. It's not about using a phone to really dial a number, but really how can you really use that phone to really improve potentially the reach of your business, for example, and what does that really involve? So like Dr. Bhavani mentioned, artificial intelligence, it's already part of our daily lives. This year was a huge paradigm shift that we saw in use of technology by actually laymen and on lay citizens in making decisions, in looking at getting information, etc. So one is that the education of these emerging technologies for beneficial use and mitigation of potential harm, both of these are equally important. And you can only do that with digital upskilling, training programs, and really bringing in that collaboration required between private, civil society sectors, etc., and really increase competency amongst people. The second was really related to how can we make ourselves less vulnerable, or the entire civil society or every civilian less vulnerable. And that can also be only possible through proper collaboration between various different stakeholders and countries. And we talk about, say, digital economy, we are expecting it to be $21 trillion in a couple of years, but half of it we expect will be spent on just combating crime, technology-related crime. And so we worry that we may be progressing very fast in terms of technology, space, but we may be also spending a lot of effort and resources towards keeping ourselves safe. So the good news is that 98% of potential, vulnerabilities can be somewhat eradicated with use of proper hygiene techniques. And we find that youth are going to be the potential torchbearers in this effort. So they will play a continuous and important role in this effort. So that kind of sums up the approach we took towards policies. And we had 4 verticals. We looked at security, we looked at AI and data for society, like Dr. Bhavani mentioned. We looked at disinformation. For example, today there's a lot of information out there, but it's hard to really understand what is really true and what is not. And COVID was a perfect example of how there were a lot of conspiracy theories around vaccination and things like that really affected people. And there was also lots of lives lost because of disinformation. So all of these really form the basis for our policy recommendations in technology.
Thank you so much, Dr. Krishna Shri. One of the things I want to address is I have heard this quote before. Electricity can cook a man a meal and light up the room, as well as if it's misused, it can cook the man, electrify the man. So I think what the technology, that's what we are dealing with. It's a matter of how are we going to be using technology. Because when you're talking about AI, security, and misinformation, it still can enhance, do exactly what we are doing, connect the entire world, give us the right education, what Dr. Prema was saying, really disseminate the information that needs in a holistic way. Whatever has been happening doesn't work anymore. The way we consume information is very different. Most of the world, the developed countries are on the internet using technology in various forms, and especially AI. AI is not something outside of us. It's a feedback loop that whatever the entire global population is plugging in is what it's giving back to us. So just being aware of that, and I think technology plays such a crucial role. Now, going back to Dr. Priya, with health, holistic health. I mean, at Power of Women too, we have 7 areas of health and well-being. We talk about physical, psychological, emotional, social, spiritual, economical, and environmental. All of these play a role. They all are interconnected, play a role in our individual well-being and our society's well-being and how we are doing. So going to you, Dr. Priya, we see such a connection here. I love that you're all working together at that high level because that's so crucial. Going to holistic health, what kind of policy recommendations have you all put forth, and also consider, taking into account emotional well-being and physical, mental well-being, among everything, economical, environmental. So if you can share some insights with us.
Thank you, Shanali. So from the name of our working group was Integrated Holistic Health, Mind, Body, and Environment. And I think that that's where we drew our foundation for this particular working group. Because when we talk about health, first of all, even the WHO has moved the concept of health from being an absence of disease into actually a feeling of well-being, both mental, physical, social, and emotional. So we wanted to emphasize aspects of health policy that moved away from the individual human being's health to understanding that our health is not only dependent on our immediate family, our society, our country, our species, but even the entire world. It affects each and every one of our individual person's health. So health is a huge topic, and we were completely flooded by issues and problem statements that people wanted to share. But I think, first of all, the overwhelming majority or the largest push was for mental health. It's very sad that even today, 40% of the countries in the world have no mental health policy. The definition of what constitutes a mental health condition, even that's not clear when it comes from a medical, political policy standpoint. Simple things like understanding that mental health cannot be standardized. It's different for different people. It's different for women. It's different for men. It's different in different parts of the world, different races. So many social cultural aspects affect mental health. And the fact that isn't even mental health care and support is not available in 80% of the hospitals, 80% of healthcare facilities in third world countries is something that is almost unforgivable today, considering that, we've progressed as a society. So reinforcing the requirement for having mental health care facilities and support and manpower available at community healthcare centers, and having community involvement to help overcoming the stigma. There's so much stigma. There's so much fear. Even today, people are thrown out of their workplaces when they say they feel stressed. Every 10 seconds, somebody commits suicide in the world. And the fact that most countries, even today, have no suicide hotline. Even in India, there is no suicide hotline that's, a central suicide hotline. These are really heartbreaking statistics. So our predominant policy recommendation was to ensure that mental health policies are in place in all countries. Actually, it's surprising. Over the last 3 years, naturally, the entire discussion on health has been on COVID-19. But since its very inception, mental health has never featured in G20 healthcare discussions, ever. So that was one thing we were very passionate about, that we bring in mental health, not only discussing dealing with the treatment aspect, but also how to enhance wellness. So things that are considered as esoteric or very traditional, something as simple as meditation, ensuring that from a very young age, children are trained on coping mechanisms. We were just talking about technology. I mean, even infants, to make them stop crying, we put them in front of a phone. And this digital addiction of sorts is constantly making our mind run, that the silence of just letting your mind rest doesn't happen other than when we're fast asleep. And even sleep doesn't happen so much nowadays. So the importance of mental wellness techniques, something as simple, we did a campaign internationally called the 999 campaign, it started off with schools where we wanted to challenge kids. Can you do 9 days straight of 9 minutes of meditation? That's it. Just 9 minutes of being silent, and 9 minutes, 9 rounds of Surya Namaskar, which is a exercise that it's quite active, and it's a cycle of yoga that really makes you focus for those 10-15 minutes that you're doing it. And we had more than 2.5 million people worldwide complete this challenge, and it was incredible to see these little children. They gave their testimonials after they did nine days of this, and even a child could sense the difference that they felt when they had just 9 minutes of meditation, and that it actually requires training to be able to sit silently. And the amount of wellness that you feel, these seem like small things, but our world is facing the largest mental health pandemic, far larger than anything COVID did to us. And we pushed that as our primary policy. Our second one was One Health. One Health is basically a concept wherein we recognize that when we talk about disease prevention, we cannot only prevent disease in human beings. We have to ensure the health of animals as well. If you take COVID-19, we all know, everybody knew it started from bats. You take tuberculosis, there's a huge campaign to eradicate TB by 2030. And now, way late, this started 15 years ago. And now we're realizing that it doesn't matter how many drugs you give to human beings if you don't treat cattle, if you don't protect our livestock, if we don't prevent spread of disease in our forests. We're not an individual species on Earth. The health of our plants, the health of our animals, it's not only about our pets, but everything. That's going to affect each and every health communicable disease eradication program we ever try to plan and strategize. So to come up with a One Health framework, whenever we put in money and manpower and effort into preventative programs, that was our second policy recommendation. And the third was to recognize that my health today actually is determined by the health of my mother when she was pregnant with me. My health, if I become a diabetic when I'm 60 years old, today, non-communicable diseases is the cause of 70 to 80% of death in the world. And that is determined 70 years ago from when your mother had you in her uterus. So when we conceptualize how to prevent or reduce the burden of non-communicable disease, it has to start from the health of our mothers. It has to start from the health of women when they begin their reproductive cycle. And when we say health, it's not just physical health, it's their mental health, emotional health, social health, to recognize that even as an individual, we are of our parents, and our children are of us. And our health it's not just about spreading a flu, but that continuity, that even the cancers I get later in life, is dependent upon what I did as an infant, how I lived my lifestyle as a child, and ensuring that we are trained in lifestyle management from a school age. Our mothers are trained in lifestyle management from when they're young, so that that cycle can perpetuate, and hopefully maybe 20, 30 years down the line, we can finally begin to reduce the burden of non-communicable diseases. Because I think at the rate our population growth is going, achieving universal health coverage is never going to happen if we don't start to reduce the burden of disease. So prevention and how to ensure preventative management will begin from way back in our life, almost before we were even conceptualized. So these were our three main policy recommendations.
Wow. I mean, you connected it back to all other working groups in such a beautiful way, Dr. Priya. I want to address some things because I think you connected to technology, education, and gender, all three of them with holistic health. I think that's so special about C20. That's something very special. That's that interconnectedness, collaboration. So I want to address the first part, mental well-being. I think we're so used to as a society, because if we cannot see it with our own eyes, we think it doesn't exist. So that's one of the biggest problems that we are experiencing. And technology has a huge role to play in this. Again, you said when a kid is crying, you put an iPad in front of them, hoping they will be watching something and stop crying. And what are they consuming? I mean, that's why we are doing Power of Women, edutainment in the sense having wholesome, educational, informative content. And it doesn't have to be this boring content. It can be entertaining, but at the same time, being conscious of the content we are consuming. And that has a huge role to play with our mental well-being, with social media coming up with filters. And we are constantly scrolling through, and we are seeing the highlight of every person's day. We don't see their entire life, but we only see their best moment that they decide to share with the world. And we tend to, without awareness, we tend to compare our lives to that. And then now that comes back to meditation. And meditation is such a huge word. Like I have noticed, especially living in Los Angeles, it's different. California is different than other countries or other states. But because they love yoga, they love to, meditate, be very spiritual. But, meditation in itself has become this unattainable thing people don't understand. But I personally feel like it's simply breathing. Breathing is the most fundamental component of meditation. And we all need food. And we can go maybe a few weeks without food. Without water, we can go with a few days, but without air to breathe, we can't really go on average more than 5 minutes. And that's the most fundamental component. That's your life is a meditation at that point. And I think that needs to be very much highlighted as well. And the other thing you said, our health depends on everything, the environment, the social, the education. So how I want to say, I think education is such a huge component, using technology to disseminate. And then going back to what you said about mothers, this is where gender equality and women's empowerment come. Mothers are our most valuable species on this planet. It's not even about a gender at this point. It's just nature that reproduces, that actually keeps passing the seed on, taking care of the mothers who is raising the next generation. Really, this is so important. And I want to go now into, because I know we're running out of time, I want to go into implementation of this incredible work you all have been doing for the past year, and then will continue to carry on with compassion and love, that feminine leadership incorporated. What is it that we can immediately take? I think you already mentioned some amazing things. And Dr. Bhavani, you can start, like, what is it that you and I can start today? Not waiting for the world to change, but taking accountability for ourselves. How can I, as a person, be a part of changing myself so that I can be a part of the collective?
It's an individual decision to be a part and to make that change yourself. It does help to be in the right company, to be listening to the right things, but it's really an individual's decision. Like Amma says, even happiness is a decision. You decide to be happy. what the youth can do, and I'm not talking about an individual, I'm talking about a collective, right? Is definitely to make themselves more aware of these conversations. What I feel, and if it's okay if I may digress from your actual question, this is something that I found a little lacking overall in the way the C20, the G20 is set up, and is our understanding of how we can actually contribute to policy. You can be a part of an action, you can join a local NGO, you can just do the best that you can as a human being, it's all fine. You can educate yourself, you can make the right decisions, but to have an impact at a global level from the individual to the policy is something, those steps are not very clear. Even with the entire C20 process, it's what we really found missing is the lack of understanding of how the individual can actually contribute to a policy-making decision and environment. So we both need to have the institutions that can facilitate it, but also the knowledge dissemination among people of how their experiences and their knowledge of the systems at the grassroots level can actually contribute to policy making. So very strong education, knowledge dissemination at the grassroots level on how an individual can actually be a part of policy making, but also put institutions in place that can bring these voices into policy. This I still feel is a huge gap in the entire in the way any nation works in building its policies. They usually sublet it to some think tanks, and people's participation in policy making we know is important, but there are not the right mechanisms for it as yet. This is what I feel is still missing, the link between the individual and policy. What you can do is, anybody can do, it's up to how inspired you are in this decision that you make and the responsibility that you feel as a part of being the whole. It takes every one of us to make this world a better place.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bhavani. And when I say you and I think that applies to every single one of us because we are all carrying that I perspective. So I really wanted to talk about, yes, what is it that we can take, I think, education wise to Dr. Prema. What is it that the youth, every individual that's watching this, if they come across this content randomly, what is it that we can do to be a part of implementing, even if they don't get adopted, these policy recommendations? How can we be a part of it? Really stand up and say, hey, I want to do something.
I believe you need to be part of, the youth should be part of a collective. And I would give Amaz Ayudh, which is a global youth wing, founded in 1985, as an example. It is there in, I believe, over 40 countries. Ayudh Europe has 5,000 members. They have done over 15 projects by the European Union, and they have 50 local civic engagements annually across Europe. And so what we had done as part of C20 was we worked with Ayudh in two ways. With Ayudh India, we engaged in the youth, and we had sessions with global citizenship through service learning. They looked at the Indian Gurukula system, heritage, ancient culture, etc. And then another thing we did that was really interesting and that I believe youth can take forward is organizing multiple youth parliaments. And this was, again, in collaboration with Ayudh chapters in India and outside India. And youth from each region or country did the research to identify the problems in their regions, propose the solutions, propose the policies, and the best practices. And we had over 35 countries participate. And we only gave them 4 or 5 minutes to present during an online parliament, and there were awards. We had invited experts, and finally, at the end of each youth parliament, they signed a joint declaration. So that's the closest thing, I think, where they have done their research and they have identified solutions and they have proposed policy recommendations with experts involved. And this is really something that all youth organizations can do. It also there's also a peer influence. So instead of doing drugs together, you could be doing something that is useful for society and building your own character together as youth.
That's so wonderful. And I think we should put more information about our youth as well as a starting point. If somebody wants to take part, that's in 40 countries. So thank you so much, Dr. Prema. And Dr. Krishna Sri, do you have anything to share in terms of implementing? Because I think technology is such a crucial component. And how can youth be a part?
Sure. I think I think to a broad extent, the way I would look at it is that engagement to improve technology platforms is, in some ways that youth can really participate in. It is a continual process, of course. Promoting digital literacy amongst your peers and communities, encouraging responsible use of digital platforms and educating others on how to identify potential harm or combating disinformation. These are some approaches one could take. Of course, thought leadership, having visible and vocal platforms to be able to showcase, your opinions, and seeking support from global organizations are some ways also towards, how we can work towards some success. I also feel that even if we as individuals are not directly affected by, say, technology-related vulnerabilities, but feel strongly about their detrimental impact, I think our knowledge of potential harm should be discussed and published in media too, to raise awareness. And one of the things Amma always says is, no matter what you do and who you are, you always end up being a role model for somebody else. So keeping that in mind itself would be an inspiration for you to take the right course of action, to pull together and bring a community approach towards discussing and also solving problems. So those are some of the things I feel that people can participate in.
I think one of the questions that goes back is, what is the starting point for us? Where do we start to do this? I don't know if any of you can answer it as well. I don't want it to be just you. And when Dr. Priya speaks as well, what is the starting point of implementing? Where can we go find them? Because I know personally, we have to sometimes really have that passion to go Google it or find it. But where can we get started? Is C20, the website, a good place to start?
Absolutely. There is a lot of material. In fact, a lot of the initiatives, what Dr. Priya discussed, what Dr. Prema mentioned, what Dr. Bhavani mentioned, all of these are initiatives that have been started as part of Civil 20. Even participating in any of these activities that are continually ongoing would be a great starting point. A lot of materials have been built. Ecosystem and partners are already engaged. So that would be a great starting point. And I think when you take that first step, you will see that domino effect for certain, as what our experience has told us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Krishna Sri. I think that's very important. And we will make sure through Power of Women, we actually highlight all those resources. And Dr. Priya, I think you can really wrap up and take your time to please share what is it that we can do to implement, because it's about implementation, because there are packs and packs of policy recommendations that have been done for all these years. What can we do? Where can we go to find these resources? And what are some practical implementation actions we can take?
It's a loaded question. I think that, like you very rightly said, even before the C20 process, even Dr. Bhavani mentioned this before, there is so much information out there, whether it is from governmental organizations like the WHO, whether it's from fantastic NGOs all over the world. Information is available, but like Amma says, at the end of the day, no matter how many organizations or how many systems we put in place, we have to dare to be the change. And human beings are communal beings. We live in communities. Our behaviors are influenced and shaped by those that we see around us. And that is especially important for youth. You know, you're trying to understand who you are, you're forming your personality. And Amma very beautifully puts it, well, each and every one of us is a role model, whether we realize it or not. Somebody else is looking up to us for inspiration. So recognizing that we have the power to actually change not only our own lives, but others, the individual has to dare to step out of pre-existing habits, pre-existing norms. Take, for example, mental health. We have to dare to talk about it. We have to dare to be open about it. Or you take something like menstrual hygiene that everybody is afraid to speak about. Nobody, schools don't want to teach children. There's strange preconceived ideas that it's going to ruin innocence. But even if that is what our immediate society says, we dare to be the change that we want to see in society. We open up and speak about it. And the power that we have to actually influence what is going on around us is so incredible. We just don't realize it. So I think the change has to start from youth. I think education is so important, and there are so many resources, and for sure it's our responsibility to direct youth towards the correct resources. But I think more than anything, it's empowering them to recognize that if they decide to speak about it, if they decide that I'm going to do 9 minutes of meditation in my school, others will see them and others will eventually want to understand more and learn more. And that's actually how lasting change happens. I think that the power of an individual is actually so much more than the power of any policy. So I think that is also the reason why Amma had emphasized so much that while you should focus on policy making as well, also ensure that empowering the next generation, empowering societies, villages, grassroots workers is as or even maybe more important than the actual policy building, because we have to be able to change our own. We are the future governments. We are the people that are going to create our future. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Priya. And I want to say something. All of you being here, thank you so much. I think it's very important we collaborate. You all have created a safe space for everybody to feel included and inclusive. And we at Power of Women, we want with this collaboration to carry the work you have done, incorporate into edutainment so the youth can actually know where to get started. So that's one of the things we're in the works, and we're also actually collaborating with our youth as well. So that can be a starting point for any youth around the world to look what our youth is and see if you don't know where to start, look it up. And this is a point of a starting point. And we work with the Brahma Kumaris as well. It's again a female run organization. And so both females and males. But I think starting points, you have already given that space. And I think that's what we all need to do, give these solutions or these resources as a starting point. If anybody who is watching this do not know where to start or how to begin. And in the closing, I would like for each and every one of you to share a couple of words very quickly in the closing. And thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate all the incredible work you have done and paved the path for all of us. And thank you so much. And Dr. Bhavani, do you want to go first?
Why don't I go last?
Okay. Who wants to go first? It can be any one of you. All of you, there's so much interconnectedness. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that y'all showed through C20 working groups. Everybody's interconnected. It's not working in silos. It's about collaboration. Everything goes hand in hand. So Dr. Krishnashree, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I just wanted to thank you for this beautiful opportunity to really showcase our thoughts. Personally, I just wanted to say that there's a lot that I learned in this process that really brought out the immense
immensity to a large extent, the team from that work with us all over the world. The types of information that many civil society organizations shared really enriched the entire process, and I really credit the work that we have done to them as well, because they are doing the hard work on the ground, and to be, to take time to be able to notice that work and, present that work really, and the courage that they really showcased was really extraordinary as well. So I really thank, the G20 countries for providing this platform, but also I think the Civil 20 leadership and entirety for making this a life-changing experience.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Prema, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'll just end with a quote that underlies the theme for all the working groups and Amma's vision. Our heart is like a parachute, and it's very dangerous if it does not open. So let's work towards that.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, again, that's bringing that compassion and love. I love that. And Dr. Priya, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think that I want to share in Dr. Krishna Shree's sentiment that the work that we were privileged to be able to see by civil society, by individuals all over, it was so inspiring. And I think that especially for youth, we are so used to hearing bad news and seeing the problems around us, but there's so much good. There's so much beauty in the work that people do to try to help those around them. And I think that in so many ways they're the greatest truth that's given in all of spirituality, that true happiness comes when you selflessly serve a person in need. That is something that is actually demonstrated every day by all of these civil society organizations and just wonderful people that want to influence positively the people around them. And I think that that if we really open our eyes to that, every moment becomes a moment of inspiration. And I hope that C20 can help bring that also to the limelight for youth to be able to just get thousands of examples of how they might be able to find that joy in selfless service as well. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautifully put. We are all a part of civil society. I think civil society encompasses all the engagement groups, in fact, because we all fall under it. So it's so important. And Dr. Bhavani, with being the coordinator of gender equality and women's empowerment, what do you have to say?
I would like to re-emphasize the C20 tagline as "You are the light," and you are the change that you seek in the world. And so we all have to take up that collective ownership for the change that we want to see. It's a huge responsibility on all of us, especially the youth. We are leaving behind, I can say I'm from the other generation, but we are leaving behind the earth field, and it's not in good shape. So it's good to look at the mistakes that we have made, come together. I do not expect anybody to do anything for you. You have to do it yourself.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Do it with compassion in your heart. You can't go wrong.
That's so beautiful. I mean, if not us, then who? And thank you so much for being here and really sharing your incredible insights. And I hope to really highlight, I mean, through Power of Women, there are so many people behind the scene that has been helping, including Miriam. I know we did it. She's not a part of the panel, who has really done so much, all of you. And Dr. Krishna Shree, when you say the NGOs are doing so much, I think all of you together, it's a collective effort that y'all are paving the path for all of us to take action, to really become aware of what's happening. So thank you so much individually for each and every single one of you, and for Amma for bringing that beautiful form of leadership that really highlights compassion and love. Thank you so much. You are the light. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Our next guest is the National Coordinator of Ayuth India. Ayuth is an international youth movement inspired by a vision of selfless service and compassionate leadership, founded by Ammaji, the chair of C20 for G20. He is also a certified yoga teacher and a background in computer science engineering, and has authored several research papers as well. Please welcome Moksha Amritji to the Power of Women Digital Conference. Hello and namaste, Moksha Amritji.
Namaste, Shanali. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here, and we're excited to learn a little bit about Ayuth. So I'll get right into it. Can you tell us about the mission of Ayuth and what it's all about?
Sure. Shanali, first of all, I must appreciate the zeal with which you have taken this endeavor to have this digital conference on Power of Women. And I sincerely wish all the best to you and your team. Regarding Ayuth, as you rightly said in your question, or in your introduction rather, that the mission of Ayuth is basically to create compassionate young leaders. We are an international youth movement, and we look at mobilizing the young people basically to lead in perpetuating natural harmony, social justice, and community empowerment, basically. And we are continuously trying to create these compassionate leaders with a sense of tolerance, solidarity, and global responsibility, whether it is, let's say, through advocacy or education or community building initiatives. We strive to create a world where young people are valued and respected, and where their contributions are recognized and celebrated. And at Ayuth, we basically have 4 pillars on which the building of Ayuth stands. We have social service, we have green initiatives, we have personal empowerment, and we have intercultural exchange. And these are in line with the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, such as number 2, zero hunger, SDG number 3, good health and well-being, SDG number 4, quality education, number 5, gender equality, number 6, clean water and sanitation, climate action, and so on. So an Ayuth member is called an Ayuthian, and we also have senior Ayuthians take up the role of mentors, whose responsibility is to guide and mold the next generation of Ayuthians so that they are equipped to tackle the challenges of our rapidly changing world and are able to make a positive impact on the lives of those around them. And Amma's organization has a consultative status to the United Nations. We are also part of UN Billion Tree Campaign. So I think primarily our mission is to create compassionate leaders, but it all starts at each individual level by transforming them by that personal empowerment.
I think that's very interesting. Thank you so much, Mokshamritji, for sharing that. And you know, when you hear about Ayud, I learned about it this year because of C20. And Ammaji is the chair of C20, like I mentioned earlier, and for Civil 20, for G20, and she founded Ayud. And when you really look at what you just said about the mission of Ayud, you can really see the compassionate leadership that's drawing. And I think that's really based on Amma's teachings. And she brings that feminine leadership of a mother. Amma means mother in Tamil and in many languages in India. So if you can share with us, what is it really, how is Ayud really drawing from her that leadership, that matriarchy leadership?
I would say that at the root of all of what Ayud is doing is a sense of dharma. In fact, Ayud is an acronym that stands for Awaken Youth, Unite for Dharma. And many a times, this is a Sanskrit term, dharma. Many a times it gets misinterpreted as religion, but actually it is not. Dharma means duty, to put it simply, our duty as global citizens. And how do we learn to imbibe this sense of dharma? Well, not by books, not by sermons, but by good role models. And these should be the role models who actually walk the talk. And that is where Amma is such a wonderful example, a beacon of light for all of us, for all the Ayudians, because she really walks the talk. I'll give a simple example. Amma is known as Hugging Saint, as you know. For the last 40 years, she has been traveling all around the world, embracing people from all religions, ethnicities, cultures. It doesn't matter whether it's a poor or a rich, whether it's a black or a white. There's absolutely no discrimination. The way Amma embraces everyone, it's such a tangible example of inclusivity. The way she listens to everyone, to the suffering, and provides them the practical solution. This is the kind of compassion that she is breathing in and out 24/7, 365 days. So just being in her presence transforms everybody. And I think that is the most important part of Ayud, that every Ayudhian derives its inspiration from the life and teachings of Amma, because she is such a wonderful role model. And of course, we also make sure that we provide regular mentoring to them to inculcate a moral and ethical sense. And we also try to provide them ground level field exposure, because Amma really, really stresses on that, because compassion just in words is no compassion. We have to put it into action. So that is where Amma makes a difference. And the most important thing which Amma is trying to somehow put in the hearts of these youth is the compassion. And that compassion with a motherhood, an angle of motherhood, because Amma firmly believes that motherhood has nothing to do with the gender. The motherhood can be inculcated in male as well as a female. And that power of motherhood is what transforms the society. It is really, really amazing to see what kind of transformation that motherhood can create. And every Ayudhian, whether it is an Ayudhian from India or Europe or America or Japan, they relate to Amma as a mother, as a teacher, as a friend, as a buddy, you just go and open your heart to. So that is the kind of openness she brings in, and that is what transforms people. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely incredible. And I want to clarify one thing. When you say Amma embraces people, she literally hugs people from around the world. And I remember meeting her once I was a youth myself. I remember
still a youth. You're still a youth.
I think I was much younger at the time, and I remember meeting Amma, and I remember she hugged, and there were thousands of people. This was in Los Angeles. There were thousands of people who had come to see her, and she was hugging every single one of them that came up to her, and to see that that's the type of leadership, that love, compassion that is being instilled in youth, regardless of gender, is so special and is so needed right now. And that's where my next question actually goes to as well. When we talk about the youth are always constantly bringing such fresh perspectives to the table. And then I really want to find out this piece of compassion. And I think that's what Amma brings. That's very special, that feminine leadership. And it doesn't matter what gender you are, bringing that feminine leadership, because we all have masculine and feminine within us. And really bringing that out with the youth is so special. And how are Ayuthians bringing that to the table in terms of their project, their inspiring initiatives? What are they doing? If you can share some of them with.
As you rightly said, in this age, in this modern age, when there is so much of information overload, it's quite common to see that youth lose a sense of what is really valuable in life. And at Ayuth, we try to bring in that value system back in their lives. What do we really value in life, so that they are able to put things in the right perspective? I'll give you a small example. This was a young boy who was once sitting near Amma, and Amma was giving darshan, embracing so many people. And this boy was very sad, and Amma asked him, "What happened to you? Why are you so sad?" He did not open up initially, but then later he opened up and he said, "Amma, there was a girl I was in love with, and she all of a sudden went with someone else, and now my heart is broken." So Amma said, "Don't worry, I'll give you a better girlfriend, a girlfriend who will never leave you." And he was so happy. He was just waiting for Amma to introduce him to his new girlfriend. And Amma kept joking and talking to him for some time. And then he got quite curious and he said, "Okay, Amma, but where is my new girlfriend?" And Amma said, "Well, son, remember one thing. This nature is your best girlfriend. If you love nature, it will love you back and it will never leave you." And then that was the day I've seen that boy getting transformed in such a wonderful way. And he is one of our leaders now on the green initiatives. He has really taken that word of Amma to his heart. And he's so much in love with nature. That is how the value system Amma tries to incorporate in the youth. And we try to bring in the same value system to people, because you being from edutainment, information overload is always dangerous in society. And it's like garbage in, garbage out, right? If you don't provide the right set of inputs, if you don't put things in the right perspective, it always creates more problems. And as far as initiatives are concerned, whatever we do at Ayuth, I think, as I initially also said, the root of all of this is dharma. What is our value system? What is our dharma? And when we are at Ayuth, we try our best to do whatever is good for the society without any discrimination of caste, color, or anything. We teach our youth to take that global responsibility as a global citizens, because there's no point, blaming circumstances or blaming God or whatever. We need to take an action. And in fact, it's a mutual learning. We also, as mentors, we also learn a lot from youth. There was a saint who once said, youth are not useless, but rather used less. And if we can help channel their energies in the right direction, it can do wonders. I remember after tsunami, when Amma was making houses for those who had lost their houses, there was this huge group of Ayodhyans from Japan who came and who said that, we are ready to offer our service. We'll stay here for 1 month and we'll help in building the houses for the poor. That was a wonderful thing. And I remember, there were in 2018, there was a huge flood in one of the states of India called Kerala. And after unabated heavy rains, Amma announced that her organization will donate 10 crores to the Kerala Chief Minister's Distress Relief Fund. But apart from that, around 400 young Ayodh volunteers and students from Amma's university, they worked in 3 shifts to provide 24/7 support. And within the first 5 days, the team fielded more than 25,000 calls. That was amazing to see that. And we connected more than 1 lakh flood victims across the state. We connected the government officials, we connected the Navy, NDRF, Kerala State Police, and so many people. And this was all youth at the helm of the affairs. Of course, we received a lot of appreciation and all that. But this is just to give you an example how youth can create the change if their value system is set right, if their energies are channelized in the right direction. This was only possible because of that channelizing, setting the value system right. In fact, even in the Ukraine war, which happened recently, our youth were there to provide support. Our youth are there to also, in various states of India, America, Europe, we do various projects such as providing warm clothes to the poor during the winter season, drinking water in the villages. We conduct youth parliaments. We conduct yoga and meditation retreats. There is a program called Swachh Bharatam, which has now been taken up as a national program throughout India, where we clean up public spaces throughout India. In Ayodhya, Americas, I remember we have taken one environmental cleanup campaigns, like, for example, including cleanup of the Chicago River. In 2023, we started something called Ayodhya Give, which is a large-scale food and clothing drive. And I think we raised over $6,000. The youth of Ayodhya, they raised over $6,000 in donations, and close to 6,000 items were donated to various charities. Then we have another project called initiative called Ayodhya Care to help the elders and the children in the nursing homes and the hospitals. We also have something called Ayodhya Reuse and Restore, where we do a cleaning up of beaches and highways. We also conduct retreats from time to time. And the most important component of those retreats is yoga and meditation. Because I firmly believe, and this is what I've seen, only a meditative mind can really think straight. So we, as part of the personal empowerment of the youth in Ayodhya, meditation is very important. We also provide resources to youth covering various topics, such as community service projects and so on. As part of C20, we have done many campaigns with youth throughout the world, especially in India. I can tell you, we started, I think you had another interview with the C20 team also, and they must have mentioned about the 999 challenge, which was part of Integrated Holistic Health Working Group, where we're doing 9 minutes of meditation along with 9 rounds of Surya Namaskara for 9 days. It was a challenge given to the youth. And it was received so well by the youth. And in fact, youth came to us and said, why don't you teach to our parents also? And if you cannot teach, we will teach. Will you allow us? We said, yes, all go ahead. We are all for it. And very recently, about not even a month back, we did a huge 999 challenge program in Delhi, the national capital of India, in the Tyagaraja Stadium, along with the gender equality campaign, where more than 5,000 students participated and lakhs of them participated online. 5,000 were in the stadium. It was a huge, huge program. So we are trying to create that sense of awareness among the youth, among the society, even the topics such as gender equality, which of course is very close to your heart. We did a pledge where everybody, men, women, children, pledged for gender equality. And in addition to that, we also do a lot of youth summits, annual youth summits, where thousands of youth come. In India, we have something called Ayudh Leadership Training Summit. The recent one had about 1,000 participants. I think in Europe, we did this year, it was called Dare to Dream. That was the title. And we included multiple transnational activities and tree planting, homeless food runs, refugee services, and so on. In addition to that, we also do collaborations with the United Nations to create multiple high-level panel experiences with UNESCO and so on. We send our delegates to UNESCO, such as World Youth Kindness Conference. Recently, our people had gone. So these are the kind of initiatives we have. There are many more, but in the interest of time, I'll stop here.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Mokshamritji. And I think it's so crucial that I want to recognize before we go to our last question, what you just shared. I mean, bringing that female leadership, really showcasing what the youth can do. And I love what you said. Youth are not useless. Youth are useless. And just to see how Ayudh is really guiding these youth to be on the right path, even with meditation, where the youth want to teach their parents, because that's such a fundamental, crucial component. I love everything, and I think collaboration. My question was going to be how is Ayudh collaborating? But I think you answered it so beautifully with everything you shared, and I'm excited for Power of Women to be collaborating with Ayudh as well to see how can we really amplify the mission. And with that said, you said some incredible components youth are already doing through Ayudh. As our last question, I want to ask you, for any youth that's watching, how can we be a part of Ayudh? How can we get involved? Because we all want to know, we all need a starting point. Sometimes it's the hardest thing to get started. And I think Ayudh has done an incredible job creating that space. How can somebody who is watching get involved with Ayudh and contribute?
Sure. I'm glad you like that. Youth are not useless, but they are useless. Let me give you one more. This is the one I coined recently. As part of the C20, the tagline was, "You are the light." And I just added a TH there, and I said, "Youth are the light."
Wow.
So I think we should remember that youth really have a lot of energy. It just needs to be channelized in the right direction. So coming to your question, Ayudh is in over 40 countries. We are in Americas, which includes North as well as South Americas, such as US, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Costa Rica, Argentina. There are about 20 chapters we have in Americas, including the 5 university chapters. We have one chapter in Yale University. We have one in University of Maryland. We have one in University of Michigan, and in 2 medical schools. I don't remember the names, but there are almost 20 chapters there. And in Ayudh Europe, we have 20 plus countries where our chapters are there. In India also, we have about 22 states where we have chapters. But apart from this, we have other countries such as Japan, Australia, and so on. So if any of the youth would love to collaborate with us, would love to work with us, would love to be a member of Ayudh, the easiest thing would be to go on to our website. Ayudh website is www.ayudh.in. This is for India. And if you are in America, it would be www.ayud.org. If you are in Europe, it would be www.ayud.eu, and so on. And if you just Google our regional Ayud chapters, you will find social media handles, you will find websites, and so on. So on our websites, you would usually find email addresses whom you can contact. And also through our social media handles such as Facebook, Instagram, you can always message us, ping us, and our teams are working around the clock, and some of our someone will definitely get back to whosoever wants to join and guide them in the right direction. Usually what we do is we put them in touch with the local regional coordinators of Ayud, because that is the easiest and the fastest ways to get started. And we usually respond within 2 to 3 working days. And yeah, it is a great great chance to meet other motivated youngsters when you attend Ayud retreats, when you attend Ayud summits. And as a volunteer, you are welcomed into a community of spirited youngsters who like to act and make a difference. So I would really welcome anybody and everybody who would want to collaborate with us and join Ayud.
Wow, that's so exciting. So it's in many countries. So any youth who is going to be a part of is part of a global network of other youth who is doing the exact same thing. So this is very exciting. And as a part of collaborating, and you are so open to collaborating, Ayud, Ammaji's work. So we will put all the websites you shared and the social media handles on our website as well. So anybody who wants to find it can easily look for it on powerofwomen.info. And thank you so much, Mokshamritaji. You shared some incredible information, and I think it's incredible to see the opportunities.
I will also try to share some videos with you if you are interested.
Yes, please do, because we want to highlight them. And I think please share it and we'll highlight it so everybody could see what it is. And thank you so much for sharing this. It has been such an insightful, exciting topic to talk about, especially because that's one of our main audience. The youth of the future. Youth is the light. I love that. I love the coined words you shared. So thank you so much for
Shanali.
And thank you.
Thank you. You have been a wonderful host. I really enjoyed the interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was
The theme of Power of Women embodies collaboration through edutainment across diasporas, through the collectives alliances that support positive global change.
Hello, my name is Christopher Coley, and I'm an assistant professor at the Amrita University School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, and a researcher at the Center for Women's Empowerment and Gender Equality, based in Kerala, India. It is my honor to take part in this Power of Women digital conference and to represent Dr. Bhavani Rao, my head of department and the director of the research labs. Dr. Bhavani, in fact, wears many hats. In addition to her academic leadership, she also holds India's only UNESCO chair in gender equality and women's empowerment, and has been globally recognized for her contribution to sustainable development and gender equality. She is currently serving as the working group coordinator on gender equality for India's Civil 20, an engagement group under the G20 annual meet. Unfortunately, Dr. Bhavani could not be here today to present for you, but she sends her warm regards and her respect to you all. I will endeavor to capture her excellent work in her stead. But first, please allow me to congratulate the coordinators of this excellent conference on the power of women and to wish you all the very best on this topic that is near and dear to our hearts. The topic of my presentation today is on the policy recommendations that have emerged after the months-long process as a part of our Civil 20 working group on gender equality. Since December of 2022, Dr. Bhavani, under the leadership and instruction of the Honorable Chair of the C20 this year, Srimata Amritanandamayi Devi, or Amma, has led a team of researchers and advocates to engage with civil society organizations, or CSOs, from around the world to produce the most important and actionable policy recommendations to put before the G20 leaders later this year. It has been an exciting process, and one that I hope you will also find inspiring. Now, the Gender Equality Working Group is one among many working groups under the Civil 20 Engagement Group. And our mandate has been to holistically examine and address the multifaceted dimensions of inequalities and disadvantages experienced by people of all genders. In doing so, the Gender Equality Working Group has intended to reinforce an approach to equality and development through an understanding that mutual respect and compassion are to be at the core of global governance for societies and the planet to flourish sustainably. Our primary goal has been to recommend plausible policy pathways, promising practices, and institutional mechanisms that will be highlighted to enhance capacities and resources to mainstream equity and inclusion across all sectors. Now, the policies I'll be presenting today will just be very brief summaries thereof. If you're interested to learn more about them and to read in-depth reports, I invite you to visit our website, which is c20.umma.org/GE-WG, which you can see on the screen now. Here you'll find our published policy pack that is submitted to the G20 leadership, as well as our supplementary report on gender equality that was published in partnership with our civil society partners. Now, as I mentioned, the chair of this year's C20 is Srimata Amritanandamayi Devi, or Amma. She is an internationally renowned humanitarian and spiritual leader, as well as the chancellor for Amrita University. In the inauguration of the C20 this year, she touched specifically on gender equality and gave this very important quote that has become the foundation of our approach so far. She said, "If women and men unite, they can establish healthy governance. But in order for this shift to come about, there needs to be mutual understanding and open-hearted dialogue. When men and women become powers that complement each other and move together with cooperation and mutual respect, they will attain perfection. There may be external differences between women and men, but the indwelling consciousness is one." And we have tried our hardest to ensure that this principle, this value, remains at the very foundation of our approach to Civil 20, as well as the policy recommendations that we are putting forward. And I hope you can see it reflected in the policies that I'll present very shortly. The C20 Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Working Group has been organized in 6 sub-themes that were identified based on the global literature, which reflects these points, but also based on our own research and understanding following a systems thinking approach. Our research lab at Amrita University has been following a systems thinking approach to gender equality for some time. And we've taken and adopted a holistic view, a multidisciplinary and multidimensional view of gender equality, which agrees and embraces the fact that there are multiple complex forces that are at play when we're talking about gender and equality, as well as sustainable development. And we believe that these 6 sub-themes that I'll be sharing today represent the most pressing issues. They include economic empowerment and sustainable livelihood, education and skill development, environment and disasters, physical and mental health, safety and security, and society and culture, with a special focus on engaging men and boys as a part of the gender equality process. The C20 Working Group on Gender Equality, Women's Empowerment has been quite busy since December 2022. Since then, we have been able to engage with over 600,000 participants from 76 countries as a part of our outreach events, which number over 1,300. In addition, we've hosted over 40 policy meetings and conferences where over 2,500 CSOs and 4,000 of their representatives have taken part in our policy dialogues and discussions. From these events, we have received over 1,000 policy recommendations. And using a very rigorous process of evaluation, reduction, and consolidation, we've worked with our CSO partners to reduce this number to a manageable amount that we have then transformed into our final policy pack, which again, you can see on our website. In the remaining of my presentation, I'll be going through the thematic and cross-cutting policy recommendations that we have put forward as a result of these events. Now, in addition to the thematic policy recommendations that have come out of this process, We've also identified several cross-cutting recommendations that we believe apply not only to the gender equality policies, but to the broader C20 framework overall. First, we believe that safety and security must be incorporated into all aspects of life, with a special attention paid to institutional approaches to ensuring girls' and women's safety, with the understanding that without safety and security, none of our policies will be effective. Secondly, sufficient financial and human resources must be allocated to gender equality policies and programs to ensure that they can be effectively and efficiently implemented, enforced, and monitored. Third, our policies and programs design must adopt an intersectional approach, which means that we embrace and we acknowledge the fact that our social problems are complex and must be approached as such and not limited to certain silos. Fourth, we must improve, increase, and incentivize high-quality gender disaggregated data collection, with the understanding that without appropriate data, we cannot make informed decisions about which policies should be implemented. And finally, monitoring, evaluation, and impact assessments must be integrated into developing all policies and programs to ensure that we're doing the right thing and that we can improve on any mistakes that might be made. Now, I'll go through very quickly our thematic policy recommendations for each of our themes that we identified. Most of these include 4 or 5 individual policy recommendations, and I'll quickly mention them. But please do be in touch with me or my director, Dr. Bhavani, and please read our policy pack if you want more detailed information for each of them. Now, in the theme of economic empowerment and sustainable livelihoods, we've identified these 4 areas that we proposed. They include mandating financial service providers to allocate a minimum of 1/3 of their credit portfolio to women-run businesses, especially micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises. We propose to incentivize loan officers to positively consider applications from women business owners and an accountability framework to ensure that all of these loans that are available regardless of your gender, and we reduce the discrimination based on these factors. Next, we want to provide capacity building and skill development to women and marginalized groups to ensure that employment and education is not restricted or discriminated against based on your gender. And finally, to encourage gender-responsive public procurement programs in all the G20 countries, which means that when a government is investing in infrastructure or sustainable development, that there is always a gender component to make sure that everyone is included in the seat at the table and can participate in the decision-making on how these funds are utilized. The next sub-theme I'll talk about is education and skill development. And here we have a wide-ranging set of policy recommendations that include gender-responsive, accessible, and affordable learning centers, especially in underserved areas, to ensure that regardless of your economic, your social, or your other demographic background, that you are not excluded from education. Further, that 80% of educated girls, at least in all their diversity, especially marginalized groups and migrants, have greater access to learning centers in their own locality so that everybody has a better access to education. Next, increasing the percentage of girls who can complete the secondary education, raising the bar of minimum education around the world to overall improve our sustainable development as a society. Next, improve sanitation and hygiene in all existing education infrastructures so that our education centers are accessible. Not only that, they're safe and comfortable for all people, regardless of their gender. And we don't discriminate just because of a lack of sanitary infrastructure, including toilets. Next, we want to aggressively implement strategies to ensure last mile connectivity, especially for underserved populations. And this is not just in education infrastructure, but also our IT infrastructure and technologies so that everybody has an equal access to these 21st century skills, which plays into the last recommendation here, which is to improve technological literacy for women and girls around the world. The next sub-theme is on environment and disasters, looking specifically at climate change and disaster relief and disaster preparedness. Here, we recommend that all nations adopt a minimum representation of at least 50% women and girls and other vulnerable groups in disaster risk reduction and management programs. This is to ensure that all people are represented and that each groups' unique characteristics are included in our disaster risk reduction and management programs. Related to this is that gender and vulnerability assessments need to take place in all disaster-prone areas to ensure that the policymakers and decision makers have an accurate understanding of all groups and can respond appropriately. Next, we want to establish community-based training initiatives in at least 50% of disaster-prone communities, focusing on empowering women and girls as leaders in disaster management so that they're not totally reliant on governments and nonprofits. Next, collaborate with local organizations, NGOs, and community leaders to deliver awareness programs and to challenge gender norms in all of our communities around the world. The next sub-theme is very important to all of us, which is physical and, importantly, mental health. Our policy recommendations include incorporating social and emotional learning and mandatory mental health education in schools and workplaces, increasing access to mental health services for underrepresented communities, and increasing funding for public-private partnerships to expand mental health services in underserved areas. We are prioritizing mental health in our recommendations here because we understand that this is becoming an epidemic around the world, and that mental health services are limited for most, especially marginalized and underserved groups, which only exacerbates the other social, economic, and environmental problems that they face. Other recommendations include ensuring mental health becomes integrated into primary care services, especially with last-mile connectivity. And finally, to increase the number of community-based mental health services and service providers in underserved areas. We believe that together these policies can strengthen our health, especially mental health services around the world. The final thematic area and set of policy recommendations I'll be presenting today are on the social cultural implications of gender equality and the importance of engaging men and boys in the process. While this may seem like an unconventional approach, it's becoming increasingly recognized that engaging men and boys is an essential component of an effective gender equality policy. That's because, in its essence, gender equality is a revolution. It's a social transformational process which requires universal participation. Conventional approaches tend to focus only on providing increased resources and opportunities for women and girls, which is absolutely important. But if you ignore the role that men and boys play in perpetuating inequalities and also as victims of the unequal social process, then it seems like we're missing out on half of the story. And our CSO partners have agreed and have proposed the following recommendations. We propose to provide gender sensitization and, importantly, transformative masculinities education to all educational institutions, workplaces, government offices, and non-government offices, specifically focusing on staff, children, parents, policymakers, and law enforcement officers. Related to this, we require that regular audits of this training take place and that the curriculum adopts cultural and age-appropriate sexual and reproductive health and rights training in addition to a transformative masculinities education. We found that, and it is recommended, that this kind of package would be the most effective, where not only are we providing a sensitization of our greater understanding of gender, of masculinities, and its role in perpetuating inequality, but also providing a mechanism for effective implementation and a wide-ranging curriculum that includes the most important topics. Finally, we plan to implement measurable targets and require that our partners implement measurable targets for engaging men and boys in the context of gender equality. This will ensure that these programs are the most effective and that we can reach the widest audience. Not only that, the feedback that we get from these programs become measurable, which means that we can improve them over time. So this concludes my presentation on the policy recommendations that have come out of this year's Civil 20 Working Group on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. Again, if you are interested to learn more, please do visit our website, which you can see on the screen here. Also, if you'd like to reach out to me directly, if you have further questions about these recommendations, or would like to see how you can work with either Dr. Bhavani or our research lab at Amrita University, the conference coordinators have my email address, and you are more than welcome to reach out to me directly. So thank you again for this opportunity, and I wish you all the best for the remainder of the conference. Take care.
Change comes from within. If I change myself, then we will have the capability to change the world.
Lessons which I've learned, I would be taking the experience collected by coming in contact with different kinds of people.
Ayuth gave me a platform to go into the depth of the ocean, to know myself, and also to aim high and soar high with the teamwork.
Ayuth is a great place for us to open our mind, to broaden our mind. It was a very mind-blowing experience and it broadened my mind a lot.
I have met many people from around all over the India, and it was such a nice experience. It was the best example for unity in diversity.
Yesterday I realized that I can dance. I generally don't dance, but I did dance. Today we practiced singing and I was like, wow, I can sing.
The one value that I learned, that the word impossible gets erased from everyone's mind when we are together. And Ayuth is such a great platform to prove this.
First, our life was only till love towards family, love towards ourselves, love towards our cousins. But now here, we learned love towards our country.
The thing which inspired me the most to become an Ayuthian is that I can do something for the betterment of my country. I can stand for my country and do something really productive for my nation, for my people.
I came here to show the world to look at me. I wanted the world to look at me, and it did happen. And the main important thing which churned is that these people, the Ayuthians, they made me to look into my world, the world inside me.
The theme of Power of Women embodies collaboration through edutainment across diasporas through the Collectives Alliance.
There's only 11 people, thank God. But anybody who is watching it will see.
The conscious committee.
Conscious committee. And my parents, and I'm sure I and me.
Mute this mic. Can you mute the mic?
Hello.
You're on.
Hello.
Wait, I think we are on. Watching it will see.
The conscious committee.
Oh God, guys. You guys, I think we are live.
Mute this mic.
Are we live?
I think the Hubcast team is not realizing we are live. I don't think the Hubcast team is realizing we are live, and they just put us live 1 hour, 20 minutes before we went.
Amazing.
But it's okay. Hi, everybody. We're happy you're all able to join us today. We have 11 people watching right now, so thank you. And I know what a technical difficulty to have. A little tech trouble. Ash, I can't hear you, by the way.
Hi. Yes. Well, as I was saying earlier, I don't know if we were cut off, but 48 hours later, we are concluding our program, our conference, and we made it. And we just want to take the time to reflect a little bit on this wonderful journey that you've all been a part of. So we wanted to just kind of share how this experience has been like on the back end, as well as the amazing feedback that we're getting from our viewership, and as well as speakers who have been a part of this conference experience. So we wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about that, and of course saying thank you to everybody who's watching and supporting and rooting us on, and our first big initiative, really, that is this conference and bringing to you edutainment, so educational content that is engaging. And Shanali, do you want to say a couple of words?
Of course. I mean, I think just getting to this point was something else. We had a great team, that really a lean team. We had a lot of support. We have to say we had a lot of support from a lot of people, words of encouragement, people who really said, hey, you can do this. But the team that was actually really working every single day was a very lean team with no really in terms of monetary resources. We did not have anything. We just had passion and a vision, and we took action. And we really started with nothing. And now we are able to say we are almost done, just 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes away from concluding. So I just want to say this has been something unreal. We have not slept. So I think the lean team is running, we call it the no sleep team. So it's been something remarkable, Ashley. How are you feeling now that we're coming to an end?
Yeah, well, a little dazed just because we have not been sleeping much, but ultimately, like what you said, right? We have a vision, we took action, and there's a lot of passion, incredibly, just so much passion behind this broadcasting that we're bringing to you. The team behind the scenes running around. I mean, it looks very simple and maybe seamless as you're watching, but there's a lot of components that go into it on the back end to deliver a good, wholesome experience for all of you. And it comes from a place of love and just wanting to provide the insights and information that can benefit your life and that you can take to make a broader impact in the world. So we wanted to just take some time to acknowledge the team. Like Shanali said, it's a very, very lean team, probably less than 9 people just running around behind the scenes. And really what's carrying us forward is our passion. It's our drive. And, if this is also our first conference, this is the first time that we embarked on this journey to deliver a 48-hour conference, a digital conference. And, it's been great. It's been a lot of learnings as well. And I think we want to bring in the team, right? So that we can give them a shout out.
I was hoping we would bring them at the end, but you want to bring them on now? Is that what you want to do?
I think so. Let's
have them come on yes. And I think we need to start by really, I want to start. None of them are here, by the way. We only have 3 of them right now on. And there's 4 more people behind all of this. So we really want to acknowledge all those 4 people as well. And then a lot of team members that has been really being supportive. So I wanna call out our media team, actually, the media team that has been such a great, I don't know how to even say this. You guys have been such amazing individuals really putting this together, sleepless nights for the past 48 hours and the past 2 weeks, really planning everything, getting everything together. Peter and Mark, please come on. I don't think we can see you both. So final stretch. We still cannot. I don't know if we can see you both. So let's see.
You can't see it. I can see you guys. I think everybody.
Okay.
I think I hit the right buttons.
Put yourself on gallery view.
See, we've said that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just okay.
Amazing.
There
you are. Well, this is our team, our lean team at Hubcast Media. Just running our whole production on the back end for 48 hours. Mark and Peter, a big shout out to these wonderful individuals that really have dedicated everything that they have to deliver a seamless broadcast experience for everybody. From
somewhat seamless.
You never draw attention to the, to that.
And then we have Nil, who's also been working. This is Nil from Turkey. We're all kind of spread around the world. Hubcast is in Vancouver and Nil is in Turkey. And Nil's just been so amazing, from just helping us with our website to all the digital assets to coordinating just so many things. Nil, like, you're so amazing. Thank you so much for joining our team. We're so lucky to have you.
I want to add something about both. I know we have more people we want to thank. The Hubcast team made this all possible for us to stream, like Ashley said, seamlessly. And Neil got all these pretty things you see on the screen, all these graphics, working with Tor and Virchin. That's another team member of us. These are behind the scene. They don't even bring their faces out. They're like, we don't want credit. We don't want to be seen. But these people are right here, so we had to show them. So we want all of you guys to say some words. Peter and Mark, say a couple of words. Take a couple of minutes to share your experience, what you guys do about Hubcast. And Neil, after that, we want to hear from you as well.
Well, I guess there's not much to say. As Hubcast was built to support projects like this. A lot of people that are probably watching this program know of us. We work a lot with Unify and Unity.Earth and Ben Bullard. And in fact, we're hosting the World Peace Day coming the week of the 23rd. And, Shalani, when you called me and actually, let me correct that. When Mark reached out to you, I believe you met Mark when we were doing World Unity Week back in June. Somewhere back there, another one of those crazy times. And you connected with Mark, and Mark came to me and says, I got this crazy idea and I got this amazing person that seems really interesting. And you and I started talking and realized that there was a real amazing opportunity to, allow us to continue to serve our purpose, which is creating a voice for the underserved, underbanked parts of the world. Hubcast was built to help groups like this bring a product to market that wasn't just a Zoom meeting. It was something that people are looking for now, which is there was a broadcast quality, and our team is dedicated to try our best to not only provide a service through our experience, but also educate and train, and hopefully you guys by having this experience now have a few more tools in your toolbox to how these events need to happen. And again, we have the luxury that we have a lot of great tools ourselves, and that's why we can do what we can do. Thank you for entrusting us with this project. It's the first, I believe, of many that we're going to do with you guys, just as we've done in the past over the last 5 years with people like Unity.Earth. This is the community that I think is going to shift, the way humanity is going. We have to educate, we have to inspire, we have to create, one of the biggest things, Shanali, that you explained to me is the term edutainment. And even though it's a word that I've heard in the past, in fact, in the world of media, edutainment is a common, word where it's about, if you want to bring someone into an experience, you want to have something stuck with them, entertaining them as they are educated is the way to do it. And we know media is a vehicle for that. So again, this is an exciting venture that we're launching. We're all in. I don't think in my 40 some odd year career that I have done, an intense, and it was not 48 hours was actually just the broadcast. We started 2 weeks ago, and that was, every day. Every one of these interviews you saw over the last 48 hours were pre-recorded, and it allowed us to get more information out to the community that we could, because again, doing live shows have their challenges. But when we said let's pre-record this thing, we could really get the content out. So again, I don't want to take up all the time here, but I just wanted to say thank you. This is just the tip, and this is thank you for allowing us to be a part of your journey. And again, the great thing about what technology has allowed us to do is, decentralize the production workflow, being able to work with Nil in Istanbul, just like I work with other teams around the world. We have an office in Rwanda. Can't wait to get them involved with this project with the African initiatives. If anybody has African projects going on, we've built a team, we've built a facility like this to support it. So we're here to serve and help people build their voice. And so thank you for allowing us to be part of this platform and seeing where we can take this. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Well,
Neil.
Oh, well, we've started, I think, our journey about 2 months ago, I think, roughly. And what I would say that was the most amazing of this collaboration was, I think, working in 4 different time zones with multiple national people, which was just lovely, just working in harmony. Sleepless nights, sleepless days, and seriously, kudos to Hopcast team. I've slept a little, but you guys just have not. And I just really, really appreciate your commitment to the cause as well. And from when we first started with speaking with Ashley and Shanali, I think we've just come a long way, and we're just now more excited than ever to kind of continue this journey together. And I think this broadcast, this digital conference has just been really life-changing in terms of we just saw what we could do in the future about this, and we want to continue on to doing this. So thank you again for inviting me to be a part of this family, and hopefully we'll just grow this community together a lot bigger.
Thank you, Neil. And I want to acknowledge Tor as well. The behind the scene warriors that has been really been giving so much to make this come to be. And thank you so much. You really came as a point of strength to Ashley and I when Berchan brought you in. And Berchan has been such an incredible support system to us, who doesn't even really talk, but she makes mountains move mountains. So really thank you. Yeah, and then I want to get to Mark as well. Mark, we just wanted to leave you for last because I know you have some words of wisdom to share with us. But yeah, thank you, Neil, and thank you, Peter. And Mark, if you can take a couple of minutes to share some of your thoughts with us.
Are you sure you're ready for this?
You better turn the
only 2-3 minutes, Mark. We love you.
And you left him for last? Oh, really?
Well, I don't know. Somebody said you saved the best for last, but this isn't about being the best.
I thought that's what I was doing.
It's not about being the best because we're all equal. And this is about the journey of oneness. How different we are, whatever skills we bring to the table, we have to look at each other as different as we are, as we all bring different skill sets to the table. We are all the same. And when we can understand and appreciate another person's world without judgment, really changes your life and the lives of others that you reach. And I met Peter back in 2018 in one of the events I do that still happens every year. And he was our guy for live streaming and our AV. And one of the things I loved about Peter was his work ethic. And we've continued to work together. And now I'm working in a way because there was this weird thing that happened a few years ago that most people know about. And we all got stuck in our homes, and we started doing these events and ceremonies and sound journeys all online as a hybrid event. As I call it Mark's Amateur Hour, but it was so fun. And what I loved was how we can reach people around the world, and you can make a difference. To think that you can meditate together, that you can do sound journeys together, you can have medicine ceremonies together, from all different places of the world digitally. I like to call it, the internet connects all the wires, and we do it wirelessly around the world. But when we do this kind of stuff, I like to call it the internet. And when we all do these things, we connect in a much different way. And it's really opened up the world. I've been blessed to be part of some large organizations where we've had virtual events that would blow your mind. And I fell in love with it because we can act local and we can reach global. And to me, that's probably one of the most exciting things that happens out there. Oh, look at that. My camera's not even on. I'm a tech guy. It's over there.
Oh, you're over that one.
I was talking over here. I'll talk over here. I was just looking at Ashley as I talked. But anyways, this is what I love. And to bring people together in this virtual world to create change, create impact, create growth, and an experience that people won't forget. Because I believe experience is the best teacher. We learn best when we don't know we're learning. And we can have these experiences that touch people's lives, that touch our own lives in a way that creates connection and even more oneness. And I love working with people from all over the world. Like I say, we've got, Shilani's in Sri Lanka. We've got...
Hey, Mark, you butchered my name on on livecast after all this time. Oh,
well,
God.
Hey, 72 hours, 2 hours sleep. Whatever. I'm just being my own authentic self. And this is what the world needs. The world needs a safe space where we can all be our authentic selves, where we don't have to have shame and blame or anything like that. And when we can reach out and create that space and even do it digitally, but like say we have Nil and Instantable, we've got Ashley, right? Yeah, Ashley's in California, and when you can hubcast is what Peter likes to call it, and that's why it's called hubcasting. And to me, it's a beautiful thing. What makes you want to get up early and stay up late? What's your passion? What excites you? Because we can all do more than we think we can do. The Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 is one thing, but we can all do so much more. What is it that lights you up? What are you willing to do, and loving to do that keeps you up all day, all night, all day, all night, all day, all night, right? And to me, that's the exciting thing. And to see the impact that this event has had globally, I'm just honored and grateful to be part of it. And excited to have met new friends that who knows what the future is going to bring. And I'm just honored to be part of this team that has brought this event to the world, that changes the world. And the topic about the power of women, we need to reach out. We need to understand, especially as men as well. And we need to support the movement because the matriarchy is where it's at. Every single person on this planet really has come through a woman, and we need to respect, honor the divine feminine in a way that has gotten lost over the centuries and the millennia. And this was a beautiful way to do exactly that. So congratulations to all of you, whether you've been part of the team as a participant sharing the word. Thank you so much for being here, and take this work and share it, because sharing is caring. And when we can change the world by sharing our experience and maybe changing the lives of other people, it's that stone, that pebble in the pond that ripples out. Be the ripple.
Of that. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for those wise words. And of course, we want to also take the time to acknowledge our Conscious Committee members who have been with us in this journey as well.
can we give a special shout out to Sister Jenna and David, please? Because I know David has been spending sleepless nights with us, or going to bed very, very late for the past few months, because he was one of the very, very first people who started this journey with us and believed in us. And Sister Jenna, even before that, she goes back to when we were invited to CSW. She played a role in us going on Agape with Michael Beckwith. So we want to really say thank you so much, Sister Jenna and David, and everybody from the conscious committee. All of you for giving your advice and supporting us with getting speakers, to just believing in us and being there for us. So really, thank you so much. And my brother and Berchan, like I said, they have been moving mountains for us, really being there for us. So thank you so much. And Vincent, thank you so much for holding ground. We don't even bring up your name, but you do so much for all of us too, behind the scene. And Ranjan, thank you so much, all of you. There's so many names we didn't, from Ruckus Avenue Radio to like Ammaji, C20, Miriam, who was really just behind the scene, really helping us, Mokshamrita ji, to Brahma Kumari, some of the speakers we had, to so many of you guys. Thank you so much. We don't have the time to share all the names, but trust me, we will take the time to acknowledge you all. And we are so grateful for every single one of you. Thank you so much. And thank you for hopping in to say hi.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you all.
So you want me to switch you back to just the two of you, right? Is that what you want to do? Okay, I'll let you go back. We'll see you later.
And that was such a nice experience to have the behind the scene team join, although we didn't have all of them come in. But thank you for joining us. And yeah, Ashley, I think it's time for us to reflect a little bit before we conclude. We have about another 25-30 minutes to reflect before we go to our closing blessing and then a closing remarks. So please, Ashley, you want us to get started?
Yeah, well, what an incredible journey it's been. As we've stated, it's the first time we've ever done this before, and it's been a lot of learnings. It's been a lot of passion, in this process, growth and transformation. As we bring this to the world, and coming from a place of love and passion, it's been an experience to also grow into the women that we have always wanted to be, or have been inspired to be. And we're growing in this process as well. And part of why we brought so many incredible speakers was to learn from them, getting their insights from each and every one of those speakers. We had over 100 speakers during this 48-hour broadcast, and each one offered a unique perspective, a unique insight into what it is to step into your power. And it's helping us in our journey, and we hope that it's also helping you wherever you may be. You were able to get some piece of information that you can apply into your life, some practical steps that can help you step into your greatness as well. So I think that for me, that's been the most rewarding part of this whole experience. Is we are coming from a place of passion and love to bring a piece of insight and practical solutions for anybody all over the world. And in the process, we're also growing.
Beautifully said, Ashley. I agree with you. And I think I want to add to that. I think just putting this entire experience together, or the conference together, was something else. That experience really was something that really changed our lives, I would say. And I want to acknowledge your contributions too. I mean, really coming on board, like believing in the vision more than anything, and really surrendering. We cannot state enough how much you have contributed. I mean, without you, I feel like if you were not there, I don't know how we would have really done everything so smoothly and gotten it to this point. So you had done such an incredible, remarkable job, really being there in every step of the way, to the point of, I mean, if it's okay if I share this piece of information, Ashley I quit her job. She had a corporate job. She had to quit it because she really just wanted to surrender and said, this is more important. This needs to come to life, and really taking that leap of faith to really knowing, I mean, we have not been funded. I'm just taking that leap of faith because it needed to come to this world. We really needed to bring this to this world. So really doing sleepless nights to really going everywhere with me. I mean, we went to DC, New York for Peace Village, to, meeting with, going to the Senator's building to, I mean, and we had done so much. This experience itself was something very remarkable. I feel like that was the power of women really working with you, really doing that dance with you to really understand what it was. I think we don't just talk about power of women because it sounds good or it's no, because we experience it. And I get to experience it with remarkable women. I mean, you saw Neil, Sister Jenna, some of our conscious committee members, Birchen, of course, our parents, our mothers, that's like, goes without a saying. These women have been there. And I want to say, like, you, like, being there, thank you. And we have to acknowledge, I know you shared your experience, but just really dropping everything and just really coming to do this, to put this together is absolutely remarkable. And thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having the vision. Somebody always needs to hold a vision, and you were able to galvanize so many incredible people, including myself, really bought into this project because we see the impact, the level of impact that it can have on a global scale. And it's also a rewarding experience once you get to the finish line and you kind of look back and you see, oh, I did that. Oh, this is actually, all the feedback we're getting from people all over the world with regards to this conference. That's so rewarding. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of something like this?
I think so. I just want to acknowledge that. I mean, we had just based on the current analytics. So this is not really going into all the partners who broadcasted us on Facebook to all of that, just one of our partners. By the way, I want to acknowledge Michael Krause as well. Michael has been such a remarkable individual helping us. I was hoping he could join us as well, but I don't think we sent the link in time. He was handling social media for us in terms of broadcasting on Facebook with Unify. And with Unify, I think we had over so basically altogether we had unique over 8,500 viewers just coming in through at some point to consume our edutainment or our sessions that we broadcasted. So that's a huge win. I mean, considering Facebook actually blocked our account because we were logging in from 3 different countries. So we had $0 put into marketing. It was solely based on people believing in us. A lot of public figures posted and reposted us, and all the speakers really helped us. And C20, our collaboration with C20 really pushed us forward as well with the viewership. So to get to that point, I think that really shows that work, really, we put all our hearts, literally blood, sweat, and tears to make this a successful conference and to bring edutainment, to really showcase what edutainment is. And as youth, it's not just hearing it from like the older generations what edutainment is or having them tell us what it is. It's really taking the lead and saying, hey, this is what it means to create edutainment. We're going to do it. We're going to set a trend. This is our generation. If you saw our previous youth panel, you would notice, I mean, this is our world. We really need to be heard. We need to be seen. Our words, not just heard, really considered into decision-making processes. And that's what Power of Women is. Ashley and I are that example. We came together. So many other women came together along with men. And we did this to create that safe space so we can have the youth. This is our world. So we have to be like a part of these conversations. So we created that safe space. And this is just the beginning. And there's so much to go, so much more to accomplish. This is just a stepping stone. And just acknowledging every single person who believed in us. Thank you. I mean, if it wasn't for you, I don't think we would be able to even come. We wouldn't even get to this point of sharing these words. So really acknowledging all your contributions to everything you have done with your resources.
And when we talk about a collaboration with C20, which is an official engagement group of G20, we're talking about how we can amplify the voices of people's aspirations with the world leaders who are gathering in this G20 summit. And why we wanted to have this conference running parallel to the G20 summit is because our voices need to be heard, like what Shanali said, and how we heard from our youth. Maybe we are not being heard enough, and we need more of these platforms and spaces so that we can have these conversations and really empower and uplift one another, so that we can bring more attention to solutions. As we heard from our panel earlier, we're full of solutions. We're full of excitement and just fully surrendered to service to help make a better world for all of us. And if we had the investment and resources, if our voices are heard, maybe we can move into a place where we can have a better environment. We can combat the climate crisis. We can have better relationships between nations. A better education system, all of these things. We just need more platforms where we can be heard, and more solutions can come out of it. So that's I think what's been very rewarding throughout this journey of putting this conference together. We are able to hear what these solutions may look like. And of course, for us with Power of Women, how do we create more balance? How do we have more of a balanced representation in leadership-making processes, and decision-making processes, and more leadership representation as well? I think that's been the most rewarding part of this whole experience.
I think Ashley touched upon some incredible points, and I want to go back to them. Our youth, I think just in that room, in that panel, everything we need was said. Every single thing, or maybe there's more. It's just, one thing is we need to be heard, and not just heard, the voices need to be considered when making decisions. We are the next wave of leaders. The older generations realizing, we have to inherit this world as it is. So really investing in us. I mean, doing work like this takes a lot of effort. Really, I mean, I see, there are incredible philanthropists like, Mackenzie Scott, to, I see Michelle Obama. They're doing incredible things, but really broadening their scope, to Oprah Winfrey, there are so many names we can go on and on. There are so many philanthropists out there. Look at places where this is happening and where the youth are galvanizing. It's not just in one place, it's happening around the world, and we're really bringing a global population together to make an impact. So broadening that perspective for every one of us, so we know we are here. And I think the youth are calling out, saying this. And our youth, our generation, the millennials and Gen Z, are so wise, so with so much insight and wisdom. So listening to us, because it's really our world we have to inherit. And I mean, there are so many individuals that are supporting from older generations. Just join them, listen to what they have to say. They're really doing their best to support us, but get behind them and be a part of that wave that's really empowering our generation. And I speak not just for us. I think the youth, when you hear them when they were speaking, they were between like 17 to 28 that today they came. I mean, they're calling out. They really want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged for the work they're bringing on. And that's a part of edutainment. You know, how can we utilize edutainment to really spotlight this, really utilize media, music, arts, storytelling in an engaging way to create content, events, and experiences to really broaden the narrative. I always say this, history. We need to know her story so we can know our story. And that our story not just includes women and men, anybody, however they identify themselves as. Our nature, our wildlife, they are all a part of this, our story. So we need to make sure we are aware of that. And so storytelling is one of the best ways to get it out there, because we don't even realize that's how we are constantly consuming information through our social medias, through every piece of content we consume. That being said, and we did what we did with the conference to get started, to start a conversation, to start this discussion and really bring it to your attention that this needs to be something we prioritize. We need to come together. Collaboration is key. Partnering with each other is key. Really, that balance is being reflected. The imbalancement is being reflected in nature. And we have to do something right now. And there's no time to just wait till somebody else come to do it. It's really us. It's our turn. And that's why I think we also brought a lot of expert speakers. What can we learn from them? And really be that bridge to talk with the millennials and the Gen Zs, or how we like to say the zillennials, the 90s kids. How can we really be the bridge so we really come up with solutions together? And we have had some remarkable speakers who offered a lot of insight and wisdom. I think it's a matter of now taking action. Really ask yourself, like, why are you even hearing this message right now? If you are at some point in time for a reason to take action right now. So yeah, Ashley.
Amazing. And can we just pause for a bit to think about what this experience is and this digital conference? You had the pleasure to tune in from wherever it is you are in the world, from the comfort of your own home at any time. And you were able to be a part of this discussion through polling. And you were also able to hop into a Zoom room to have more of an interactive discussion. And this is the whole concept behind a digital conference that we wanted to bring to you. And also having some form of entertainment. Throughout the conference, we sprinkled in amazing pieces of music or documentaries to really engage you through the arts. And also just how can we utilize this digital space to come together no matter where we are. Maybe this is the way to think about what a conference looks like in the context of the digital space. So this has been a lot of learning for us as well to test this out, and we want to continue. We want to continue on to next year and put together another conference for you all. But I just wanted to acknowledge that. That's what we meant with DPOW, Digital Power of Women conference.
I actually want to add something, Ashley, we discussed with what you said. We want to share a message with anybody who might have a different experience or an opinion. We try to bring a lot of people together. If you notice somebody is missing, a certain race is missing, please know, like, it was not intentional. We don't see the world in color or any of that. We really are trying to bridge that gap of always constantly saying, hey, we need this. Let's really transcend that. Let's not even make racism a thing by constantly reiterating the existence of it when it doesn't even exist in certain places. Not that it doesn't exist systematically. Of course, we have to address a lot of things: gender, race, even age, disability. All of these are things to be addressed. But if it's not existing in a place, let's not try to impose it, because we want to be inclusive of everyone. And we are really putting our blood, sweat, and tears to be as inclusive as possible. And we can only go as far as how everybody else collaborates with us and partners with us to make it be as inclusive as possible. So it's a two-way mutual experience and a action. Mutually, we have to do that for each other. So just know, if you have any feedback, it's a safe space. Come and share it. And if you think something is not working, bring the solution. It's easy to point fingers and say, hey, you didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. You missed this person. You didn't put that thing. Just know we are doing this, and we have created the space for you to bring yourself together, like and work on this together. Bring that solution. If you see something is missing, see how you can cover that gap, because we are all a part of the solution. We are also the solution by ourselves. So let's be a part of the puzzle. Every puzzle piece is important to put the picture together. So bring your piece and put it there, or together, I think it's important for us to realize this is a space to bridge those gaps. Not to constantly reiterate or impose anything that's not working. We want to transcend from that. We want to create a new way of seeing the world, a shift. That means we have to come with an open mind and open heart, most of all, and have compassion, because we're all going through something. Whether we share it with others or not, we are all going through something. And that's one of the biggest lessons I learned in this process. Every single person is going through something in their own variation. We are all experiencing the same thing with different variations. So just keeping that in mind and being kind to each other. And it can be as simple as smiling with someone and just giving a word of encouragement. And that's what we want to create the space for you to be. Bring your best self. Bring your best self. And it's okay if you mess up, as long as you reflect on it and you really don't make those mistakes again, and apologize when it's necessary. And I think that's what is most important. Express love and stay thankful and grateful for Mother Nature giving us this opportunity to exist. So let's not try to destroy Mother Nature while she has given us an opportunity to live and experience this human life.
Well said. And just kind of my final remarks here before we transition out. Once again, thank you for all of your support and viewership. Also, just a special thank you to all of the speakers who jumped on board to be a part of this conference experience for you all. Over 100 plus speakers. And it's like Peter mentioned, I mean, we offered a digital studio for all of our speakers to be a part of and really deliver the message that we felt was going to resonate with you all, and that was going to offer practical solutions that you can implement in your life, and also words of wisdom and how we can inspire action as well, and how we can step into our greatness. So special thanks to all of you. As far as just my closing remarks, I am growing so much in this process, and I think that Shanali pointed out there's been a lot of surrendering that happens when you are passionate, when you are in rhythm with life. and it's important to honor that process. The ups and downs, all of it, even our humanity, the wholeness of who we are, love every part of ourselves. And I think that's going to be the start to heal the world. And we'll start to realize that we're not far away from maybe these abstract concepts that we may think, like world peace or, combating the climate change, the climate crisis. These things can actually happen, and it can happen actually in our lifetime. We would just have to come together, collaborate, and really operate as one Earth, one family, one future. So this was amazing, and please, we're going to have a lot more in store for you all. So this isn't going to be the last project. We have many, many more things in the pipeline. We'll just need a lot of your support. And please connect with us. Go to our website, find out more about what our mission is, what our vision is, and reach out directly to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. I think it's time for us to, I will be back one more time, but to just conclude everything what we just shared. But besides that, I think you said it so beautifully. Thank you so much. And I think it's time for us to go into the next segment. And thank you is all I can say. Very grateful for every single one of you.
Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. O Divine Being, lead us from the darkness of ignorance in which we suffer and bring suffering to others. From that darkness of ignorance in which we think that we are separate. Lead us from that to the light of truth, in which we know that we are not separate, but we are one, and in which the suffering ends and the healing takes place. Lead us from that false identification as this physical body, the size, the shape, the color, the story. Lead us from that identification into the true identification with the soul, that which was never born and will never die, that infinite, eternal, all-powerful presence. Om peace. Om peace. Om peace. It's such a blessing to be together with you all today, and such deep gratitude to our beloved, most respected, revered Puja Amaji, Puja Mata Amritanand Mayaji, through whose vision, commitment, and Shakti the whole C20 program has come to such a beautiful fruition, and with whose beautiful vision and dedication and blessings we gather together in this Power of Women Summit, while over here, heads of state are discussing policy, governance, security. Over here, we are coming together to remember re-recognize, re-emphasize that without Shakti, without that power of women, nothing is possible. The theme that our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has given to the whole G20 summit is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. It means the world is a family. But actually, in Sanskrit, if you look at really what the word means, it means Vasudha. Vasudha is Mother Earth. She's the goddess of the earth, that we are her family. So it's not just the world as a family in some vague, amorphous way, but actually we are the family, the children of Vasudha, the mother goddess, the Shakti. One of the things that I love so much about Indian culture and tradition and the Sanskrit language and all of the languages that have come from that is, if you look at the word creation, Shrishti, it's feminine. There are masculine and feminine nouns. We don't have that in English, but so many languages have that. And Sanskrit does. And if you look at the word for creation, Shrishti, feminine. You look at the word for nature, Prakriti, feminine. You look at the word for that power through which creation is created, through which nature comes into being, that power through which all of the generation, the sustenance, and the dissolution of all of creation takes place. Shakti, also feminine. Shakti is that power of the feminine. So that which is created is feminine. Nature itself, feminine. The energy through which it all happens, feminine. That's the power of Shakti. So as we gather together at this time, we come to really recognize that power. We don't have to be empowered. We have to have the blinders that have been put on our eyes, on our minds, on our hearts, and on our lives removed so that we can actually see and embody the power of who we are. Not just as physical human women, that too, but also as embodiments of, vehicles of, vessels of that infinite, omnipotent power of Shakti. There are what I call 5 C's that are critical for us to truly bring about the sustainable, peaceful, healthy, equal world that we know we need to live in. The world that state heads are coming together to talk about, the world that we talk about, whether it's United Nations, whether it's all of the different gatherings, different summits, different comings together. We come together to talk about how we can bring about a sustainable, healthy, harmonious, peaceful, empowered, equal world. And if we're not talking about that, then there's a problem. But assuming that that's what we are talking about, that takes place when we bring in and embody these 5 C's. Number 1, connection. Deep connection, each of us individually. And of course, this pertains to men as well, because the presence of the divine feminine, the feminine principle, doesn't exist only in the bodies of women doesn't exist only in the physicality. It exists in that sacred presence. So men have this as well, but that connection to the Shakti within us, connection to that divine presence that is the truth of who we are, whether you call it soul, spirit, consciousness, love, truth, divinity, God, whatever word we use, it doesn't matter. But we need to begin by being deeply connected to it, anchored in it, rooted in it, nourished by it, nurtured by it. And from that connection, we connect to ourselves, to the truth of who we are, that is not the size, the shape, the color of our bodies. Otherwise, far too many people, and especially women's lives, end up ruined and unable to really embody the dharma that we have because we're so busy obsessing over the physical package. I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too dark, I'm too white. I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not successful enough. So connection to that spirit, that soul, that Shakti, that consciousness that isn't the ever-changing body. That's why I began with that mantra. When we say Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, it's translated as lead us from death to immortality. But it's not asking God to make our bodies not act according to the law of nature that God has created. It's not saying, God, may this body not decompose according to the natural laws you've created. What it's saying is, let me realize I am not this body. Let me realize I am that which already is, has always been immortal. So connection to that. And connection from that to the truth of who we are, our true self, our higher self, our soul, our spirit. And connection to each other. As women, we need to be connected. I come originally from California. I've now been so blessed to spend the last almost 30 years living in Rishikesh, on the banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the Himalayas, at Parmarth Niketam. But originally I come from California. And in California, we have these beautiful redwood trees that are the oldest trees in the world and the tallest trees in the world. And yet California is besieged by earthquakes, fires, floods, landslides. How do these trees live for hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of years at hundreds and hundreds of feet tall? The secret of the redwoods, the secret of their strength and resilience, is that the roots of every single redwood are interlinked and interlocked and connected to the roots of every other redwood. The entire forest sustains each other. And we as women must come together connected, supporting each other, nourishing each other. It's not me or you. It's me and you. Me as you. Together, and only together, can we really be strong and resilient and bring the change in the world that we know is needed. And after connection comes conscious. Through our spiritual practices, whatever religion, whatever faith, whatever language, it doesn't matter. But through that, we become conscious of the power of who we are, conscious of that Shakti in us, conscious that we are here with a dharma to fulfill, conscious every minute and every moment that I am not my thoughts, I'm not what society tells me women should be. I'm not what the neighbors think of me. So many lives are ruined by obsessing over what the neighbors are going to think. Samne wale kya sochega? What is this other person going to think about me? We become conscious. We realize that's not who I am. And we become conscious in every breath, every minute, every moment of our fullness, our wholeness. And then we bring that into the world. And that leads us to the third C, which is compassion. Women's nature is compassionate. We are the nourishers, we're the nurturers, we are the creators of life. We forget sometimes, though, to bring that compassion to ourselves. And this is the time that we must remember. Compassion also for the self. It's not serve the world, love the world, minus yourself. It's with you. Self-care, self-love, self-compassion. It's critical. And from that, courage. Courage to truly stand up and embody our dharma, our purpose, to use that Shakti to create the change. Spirituality gives us the power to say no to that which must be said no, just as much as it gives us the power to say yes. And so we have courage in that Shakti to say yes and embrace that which we must embrace, and to say no to that which we must be done with, whether it's oppression, suppression, violence, human rights violations, inequality. That Shakti gives us the power to say no. And lastly, creativity. From the courage, we have access to that creativity to truly bring about, to manifest, to create the ripples in the world of change, and to do it courageously and creatively, because that which the world needs today is different than what it needed when our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers were the ones bringing change. The world keeps changing. We're faced with so much today that they didn't imagine being faced with, from water shortage and food shortage, climate change, environmental destruction, so much refugee crises. We need that courage that comes from the connection, from consciousness, from compassion, in order to then blossom into the creative expression of Shakti. There's so much more to share, but time is so short, and I am so deeply grateful for this beautiful opportunity to be with you all today. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.